So time lost in the pit, whether you want to make an adjustment or whether there's an issue, a problem with the car, that will have a bearing on where you will finally end up. Further improvements done in 10th place for the 59. That's the Czech Dusan Kuril in the Hyundai again. Hyundai showing strongly. Mola there also in his... It's a colour that gives the Hyundai away, isn't it?
Yeah, at Indigo
these
Motorsport
colours.
Yeah, whether it's racing or rallying. And of course, Hyundai, if you believe what's being said this week, will have the new World Rally Champion on its books for the WRC next year, right, Tanak, the Estonian. There is Tom Coronel in the pit lane, 4th in the times. Vastly experienced Tom Coronel, one of the 2 twin brothers, Tim Alpha, Tom Romeo. Coronel down a big Alfa Romeo fan. Tom Senior. Change of tyres going on.
Well, it looks like a new set, maybe more than a set that it might have done some running previously. So, new set of tyres with those nice, crisp, sharp edges should give you another advantage. Track conditions fundamentally are improving. Still very wet, though nowhere near anywhere we'd consider running on slick tyres. In fact, I doubt anybody will be running on slick tyres throughout the morning until we get a proper dry line, and then that requires it to ambient to get up somewhere in the region of the middle teens.
For China, there you see the car in the hands of Zhendong Zhang. That's the other of the MG6s, so sister car to that Rory Butcher is driving. And Zhang currently for China is way back in 16th in the times as he heads up towards us now. Another driver learning about the circuit, being pretty tentative there as he goes now through turn 9. That chicane on the outside you see. There is the MG along that short straight up towards Semaforo, the right at turn 10. But Zhang needing the mileage. So right now it is Engschler who's back out again. Germany topping the times from Russia, GB, Netherlands, France and Hong Kong. Belgium is 7th. Slovakia is 8th. Hungary, courtesy of Norbert Kish, double truck racing champion. He's currently 9th. And then the top 10 rounded out by Latvia. Valtris Zviedris, the 5 times Latvian karting champion on track, representing his nation in this. For China, Zhendong Zhang is certainly pressing on.
Well, he's doing 2 things. He's pressing on at the same time, getting his head around, driving a touring car here at Vallelunga. So it's a pretty steep curve for him, comes across start-finish line. So currently in 16th place. To see whether there's any improvement, he has dropped down, stays in 16th position, no improvement on that lap.
There's the American entry, that is Mason Filippi, regular in the TC America Championship this last season. It's a new car to him in this Hyundai. That's Jim Carteau in the pit lane, ready to go back out again. But Mason Filippi, 3rd in the American Championship. Jim Carteau, there he is, ready to go for Hong Kong. And he's done a pretty decent job so far, 6th fastest.
Yeah, just recorded that time prior to coming into the pit. So sitting there, he is actually 1.5 seconds down on the fastest lap, still hanging with the number 8, Enslinger. So from Germany. But, I mean, it's all relative, half or 16 minutes remaining before the checkered flag will come out to end this qualifying session.
Italy on track, you're seeing there on home soil is Enrico Bettora, who's been a regular saloon car racer for many seasons. 4th in TCR Italy this year, so another experienced peddler. And where is Italy to be found? 14th is the answer, as you see on the graphic on the far left. Powering his way up now towards turn 9, which is Trincia. Finding the drier parts of the road as best he can. One nation which is currently Latvia, being warned that you need your lights on, so there's a mechanical warning flag if you don't have your lights on, and that is Zviedris being warned about that at the moment. For Sweden, Jessica Backman on track, another very experienced TCR racer. She's done just about every TCR series going, it feels like. Certainly last year she was in the European, the UK, the Scandinavian, the German Championship. And Jessica Backman then heading now 12th quickest out of the 20 for Sweden. Not a bad effort. Let's just see what she does on this lap. The 2 sectors that she'd done were down, and so Sweden stays 12th, but Jessica Backman stays on track, heading now down towards turn 2, the Curva Grande.
Yeah, big old curve, and in these conditions it is a tricky, but everybody seems to have been getting through it without any trouble. It has been, you know, many years ago, seen of innumerable accidents, people getting it wrong, but so far everybody's been pretty well behaved in difficult conditions, particularly early start here, 8:30 in the morning at Vallelunga.
Norbert Kish with the Alfa Romeo Giulietta. Fabulous looking car, that, isn't it? One of two Alphas, but different spec. You've got a Veloce, which is the more recent Evo version, and the original Giulietta. So Norbert Kish, who, although he is, as I say, double truck racing champion, made his name in Hungary, winning Clios, Suzuki Swifts, and Seat One Make Championship. So certainly no stranger to saloon car racing. Good to have him back. On board now with the hugely experienced Tom Coronel.
Just looking at some of the tire marks for drivers who made mistakes coming down into turn 10, and some of them have gone straight on, and of course into the grass at the exit of that hairpin bend, the slowest corner effectively here at Vallelunga. Then through turn 13, the short run up to this almost parabolic turn 14, which goes on and on and on, and again hanging sort of mid-track, looking for a bit of grip. Even some of the grid positions you could see are actually midway around the corner. So let's do a lap behind the wheel of Tom Coronel through the curve of turn 1. And this is where it all begins to sort of focus your eyes and mind through turn 2, staying off the racing line, principally again for the reasons we've given. Then the curve of 3, then down the hill, the braking into turn 4. Ideally, in dry conditions, you try to make 4 and 5 in effect one big arc, and so make your apex go out, cut back in again. Then immediately out of turn 5, you've got this curve to the turn 6. This is the most recent incarnation of the Vallelunga circuit. Reasonable straight down to a big braking into turn 7. Again, just with front wheel drive race cars, so easy to lock up under braking. Again, very, very, very wide all the way around the perimeter of the corner. Then accelerating down the hill. Gets on the brakes once again, and slightly different entry, holding the curve this time, holding the apex. The wheel spin, just getting the power on, he's struggling to get by. Then the little flick, and this is what was then the exit of what I would call the cutting on the original circuit. Great part of the racetrack, then a big breakdown, again using the long, long way around as you come through turn 10. Then just position yourself, standing water, nobody's really going that far off. There's the tire marks I mentioned. Slowest corner here, turn 11, turn 10. Again, traction, a big problem pretty much for everybody. And there isn't any rear wheel drive touring car. All front wheel drive.
Coronel for the
pit lane. Yep.
Just going back to, as you were looking at those tyre tracks at turn 11, some of that is from the drifting from last night, because that was the section they were using, and people were having all sorts of problems with a lack of grip, and so some of those tyre marks are from yesterday. Now, there you've got Enrico Betra, who is in the pit road, and we have just 12 more minutes of this session to go.
Nothing really has changed in the top 5, top 6 even, for a few minutes, so pretty much all but Tom Coronel and Enrique Patera and the Italy entry are all on track.
There's John Filippi, experienced Frenchman, and he is currently 5th fastest, so John Filippi accelerates towards us. Been racing in TCR Europe this season in a Renault, but now with this Seat Cupra, so a new car he's got to get his head round. But John Filippi 6th, because Mato Homola has just gone up to 3rd fastest for Slovakia. There is Filippi, he's got the road to himself. So for France, the Seat turns now through the hairpin right. That brings him from turn 7 down now towards Sorati, which is the tight left, more than a 90 left really. It's a very, very tight left-hander. Short straight down towards Trinchia at turn 9.
So that was one of the corners where you could hear the struggle simply to get any kind of traction. And then again down into turn 10. Slow second gear, perimeter, go round the outside, bring it back across, get yourself straightened up, stay away from that standing water. Particularly, you know, in a front-wheel drive car where you're steering as well as getting traction, late apex to try and maximize speed off the corner. Somewhat really academic, because whether you're on the drying line or the slightly cleaner outside line, there's just not an awful lot of grip presently for any of the competitors. But let's have a look and see what Felipe can do currently. In that 6th place.
The sectors aren't great, aren't they? They are
No.
down on what he was doing earlier. Some people are improving, so it is possible. We're into the final third of Q1 as John Philippi breaks the beam, stays 6th fastest. So it's Germany, Russia, Slovakia, UK, Netherlands, France as your top 6. Enschler, Gavrilov, Homola, Butcher, Coronel, Philippi. So Luca Enschler, many people's tip for honours, illustrating why. There's the other Philippi, the American version. That's Mason Philippi. And his car turns through. That's another of the Hyundais. Not sounding great, that car. And he is 14th fastest.
I don't know whether he was hitting the limiter or he had a misfire, but one of the two, you could hear it. So it's something not entirely healthy. Now, is it Hyundai or Hyundai?
I've always got Hyundai, but I'm not a Korean. You pays your money, you takes your choice. Tomato, tomato, John.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. That's true.
We're probably miles off with some of the pronunciation of drivers, never mind cars. But this, then, as you look, is heading towards the faster part of the circuit, speed building.
Yeah, Dusan Kirill.
Still quite a bit of spray generated, isn't there?
There's a bit of spray, yeah, not as much as we had just a few minutes ago. 8 minutes now of the session remaining. So we've had 12 and a bit. No, sorry, 20 and a bit. 22 minutes of drying track, but not anywhere near good enough to be brave enough for anybody to think about running on a set of slick tires, which would make a massive difference. There you are, David.
What a glorious car.
Yeah, indeed it is.
With the Hungarian colours adorning the Italian Alfa Romeo of Norbert Kish. And Norby is for Hungary where at the moment in a car that's new to him. 10th fastest, so mid-grid. Just drool as it comes over the timing line. The Alfa Romeo then goes through, and Norbert Kish, new to the car, probably a long, long time since he's set foot at Vallelunga, goes now through the curve of Grande. He's got the road to himself, and Norbert Kish pressing on, looking good here.
Looks good. I mean, the car looks stable. Reasonable amount of grip. Then you can see the nose dipping as he gets on the brakes. And again, to try and use this turn 4 and 5 as almost one arc, but in these conditions, not really capable of carrying the speed that would make that arc a more attractive or accessible line, so it becomes effectively 2 corners, which is what is intended to be. But once you get drying conditions and the speed picks up, you can actually effectively make it into one long sweeping right-hand corner. So, again, everybody's struggling for traction off these lower speed corners on the extension to this Vallelunga 4-kilometer circuit up the hill. Then this is the entry back into the stadium. That wall on the outside would have seen loads of action in the good old days. Circuit is a dual-purpose circuit. It's a test Formula 1 circuit. It's used for motorcycling, and some of the little cuttings you see around the circuit are actually meant primarily to slow bikes down, so that they're not entering this part of the circuit in particular at the kind of ridiculous speeds that they're capable of doing.
So Norbert Kish in this car run by NK Race and Image KFT, which doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, for Team Hungary, comes up towards us. We were getting excited earlier about Jim Kato, just to make the point, he's had an engine change after free practice 2 yesterday, so he will start race 1 at the back of the grid because of the engine change, no matter where he qualifies. So he's 7th in the times, but he will start 20th. Norbert Kish has found himself in the traffic here for Hungary. That's the Q80 entry, the Audi of Salam Al-Nusif, the radical racer. His brother is here doing the F4 Cup this weekend, and as he comes up towards the timing line, Norbert Kish then is 10th in the times. He'll be 9th on the grid provisionally, and there Rory Butcher in the pits for another set of Yokohamas.
So 5 minutes remaining, so you've got little time. I mean, ordinarily in these conditions, drivers would want to probably just keep running, particularly at the end of the session when the track conditions are going to get better. Having said that, where we are now, the track, it's not wet, it's that kind of in between slick dry and slick wet, and wet weather tires really aren't at their best in these conditions, but as we're clearly aware, it's still nowhere near good enough for anybody to consider take the risk of putting a set of slick tires on. So up we go again. So the Kuwaiti driver just about squeaks around, gets onto the runoff area on the outside. Track limits, of course, are going to be another issue that will be severely dealt with, quite rightly too.
So for Q8, Salam Al-Nusif is the slowest thus far. The best time that we've had in the session is a 1:56. Yesterday we had 1:40, so that gives you an idea of how wet it is today and how treacherous it is as Klim Gavrilov for Russia gets ready to go back out again. He is 0.231 of a second shy of Enschler for pole position. The top 7 in the times all within a second of each other.
And what's interesting is Enschler's time was set on his second lap, and nobody has bettered it in conditions that are worse than we have right now, which is, to me, a slightly indicative view of what this transition from the wet to semi-wet to dry means. So you go out, you've got a set of tyres that have got loads of grip, and you can do a time, and that time has fundamentally stood since this session more or less got underway some 26 and a bit minutes ago.
Now there's variety. That's the Peugeot 308 TCR of Gonzalo de Andres for Spain. Regular one-make saloon car champion, Spanish Fiat Punto champion, Hyundai champion in Spain, and Peugeot 207 champion in Spain as well. So well-versed in the art of one-make racing. More recently, he's done the TCR element of the Creventic 24-hour series, but for Spain, he is currently 16th of the 20.
Looks pretty much a grid with just 3 minutes and 33 seconds remaining. So no clear indication that anybody looking down at the 10th place, number 15, Norbert Kiss. We're talking about him quite a lot, primarily because of David's penchant for Alfa Romeos.
I'm sure you'll redress the balance with another mark later on in the day.
Indeed. But 3 minutes to go. Well, 59 has made an improvement, so that's up to 9th place. So Dusan Karil has found a little bit of time, got himself within the top 10 on the 5th row of the grid provisionally.
So here is Spain up towards the timing line, and that lap for De Andres, not an improvement. 16th. It's interesting, isn't it, that despite the fact that the road should be drying, improvements haven't exactly come thick and fast. The times haven't tumbled.
No, they haven't, and my view of it is track conditions. Wet weather tyres like wet weather to really come alive. And what we've got now is this in between what I call wet track, dry track. You can see coming down into turn 4, you'd almost think, well, it's not dry, I mean, that's that horrible bit where there's enough moisture there to make it impossible to run in slicks. But the wet weather tyre isn't designed to run in these kind of conditions. But you haven't got an intermediate. I wonder why, because it's a cost factor. We want to keep costs, control costs. You got wet, you got dry, you got to get on with it.
So right now, we are into the last 2 minutes of the session.
Up the hill, coming back into the original circuit. There's the second of the Alphas, under braking, looking a little bit unstable. So Tom Coronel, still a lot of spray in that part of the racetrack. You can see coming off the back of Tom Coronel's car as he comes up the hill. So 33, the Honda Civic of the Dutchman.
So Luca Enschler set for pole position. The 2 races, incidentally, just to fast forward, race 1 is 25 minutes plus a lap. Race 2 is 30 minutes plus a lap. If you win race 1, you get 25 points. It's 30 points for race 2, and the gold medal goes to the driver with the nation with the highest number of points. So it's like a mini 2-race championship, whereas for GT and F4, the medals are decided on the results of the second race. But for touring cars, it is going to be the points accumulated over the 2 races. So different categories, different format. There is Sweden, Jessica Backman's Hyundai, which is 14th at the moment, and the flag, John, is imminent.
Yes, it is, and well, we only seen just one recent improvement, 88. So that is Hong Kong, Katu Jim. So he's leapt forward. I don't know what he might have done. I suspect he's put on a fresh set of tyres and just hope that he's going to gain. And he has. He's put himself on the provisional second row of the grid.
Except, of course, he starts at the back with that engine change, so it underlines the pace, but he's got all the work to do when we go green for the race.
But he's found the pace, that's the key. So he's got the speed, but of course getting himself all the way back from the 10th row of the grid where he is going to start is a significant handicap, particularly in a 25-minute race on a tight and what is a fairly busy racetrack. Although there are places where overtaking is possible, but because fundamentally the performance of all these cars is so evenly matched, you've got to be right on it and maybe a little bit forceful, get the elbows out without being seen to be overly aggressive.
Elbows out in touring car racing, that's an anathema. I can't imagine what you're talking about. It's the cleanest form of racing there is. No contact ever in a touring car race, John.
Well, they've got a car wash around the corner, so maybe that contributes to it. Anyway, getting a nice little view, Butsson's Ginian entry. So again, you can hear just the difficulty of getting traction off these slower corners.
Coronel with a road to himself. But yeah, I mean, it's been a really challenging session, this, hasn't it? Track conditions far from easy.
Well, I mean, literally, you can hear the front wheels spinning up almost every occasion when they get on the throttle and a slow coming around the outside. Again, just accelerating. I mean, it was a bit like that coming from the hotel this morning in my Audi. I mean, I pulled out of a side road and I was sitting there wheel spinning and I didn't do anything wrong.
That's your leaden foot that did that. Here's Coronel then for Holland, 6th in the times, 5th on the grid because of Jim Cato's engine change. Tom Coronel here for Holland up through the Netherlands, up through turn 13. Is he going to take the flag? Is he going to bail? He's going to bail and come into the pit road. So it is Germany that takes pole position provisionally in our first touring car qualifying session. And a fascinating session. It turned out to be a slow session. 16 seconds they are slower in, what would you call these? Damp, greasy? They're not really fully wet conditions, are they?
No, they were wet at the beginning, and that's partly why the time that's stood as the fastest lap over this 30-minute session was recorded on the second lap, because the condition, while the temperature was maybe down, the track was clearly wetter, but there was more bite from the tyre in those conditions. And of course, we saw good run by the German driver Luca Enschlinger in the Hyundai. Got it done. He's 0.2 of a second ahead of Garolov in the Russian entry. So basically his time has stood all the way through.
That is Italy, that very, very smart Audi of Enrico Betterer, who at the end of the session improved, right at the end, in fact, his last flying lap before he pitted to 12th.
It's a bit like a paintball paint scheme, isn't it?
I think some of the imagination of the designers is really impressive.
The guy that did the wrap on that car definitely is creative.
Yeah. And another good one from last night for the Drift Cup was Portugal's entry. Now the sun starts to break through to dry the circuit in anticipation of what we will have on track next, which will be the cars for Q2 touring cars. But right now it is Germany then, topping the times, courtesy of Luca Enschler. Germany ahead of Russia, Slovakia third, Hong Kong fourth in the times, but remember, back of the grid for race one for an engine change. So Great Britain promoted from its 5th Rory Butcher's effort in the times, ahead of the Netherlands, Tom Coronel 6th, France, John Philippi then ahead of Gilles Magnus for Belgium. The Czech Republic's Dors Kuril is next, ahead of the Latvian entry to round out the top 10 in the times, courtesy of Valters Zviedris. Then it's Hungary, Norby Kish ahead of Enrico Betterer. New Zealand, the car in the hands of former single-seater racer Faina Kahia. Then you've got Sweden's Jessica Backman, Mason Filippi for the USA, 15th in the times, 16th. Spain's Gonzalo de Andres ahead of Lithuanian's entry. This is Julius Adamovicius. China, only 18th in the end for Zhendong Zhang. 19th, the other Alpha, the newer car, the Veloce from Norway, in the hands of Christian Seideren. And then the Q80 entry, Salim Al-Nusif at the back in terms of time. Here are the highlights that began with Gilles Magnus discovering exactly where the grip wasn't and the Audi skittering off the road, but he was able to avoid the gravel just about, get himself back on track, and in the end, 8th in the times, 7th, he will be provisionally on the grid. So, as the drivers had to cope with the slippery conditions, it was Luca Enschler who was the man to beat for Germany. Others skating off the road, discovering where the grip was or wasn't, following the drifting line of last night. Enschler then, even though he was quickest, though he hadn't seen this, the car pulling off the road. So no wonder he spent a lot of time in the pit lane. A problem bringing him slowly back to the pit lane. So question mark over Enschler. Al-Nusif for Q8 had an off, but despite the problem, it was still an impressive run by Luca Enschler, who ended up at the end of Q1 fastest for the first race grid for the Touring Car Cup in the FIA Motorsport Games. Kuala Lumpur for the first FIA Motorsport Games. The nations are preparing for qualifying for the Formula 4 Cup. Many of them are new, never mind to the circuit, but to car racing, and to everybody, this is a brand new car that effectively ran for the first time in free practice yesterday. They have all been put together by KCMG, the KC Motorsport Group, the owner of which, Paul Ip, represents Hong Kong in the GT Cup this weekend. The cars are powered by 1400cc turbocharged Abarth engines. They have a hybrid system. They have the Halo. They are a cut above many F4 cars. They're a bit like almost a regional Formula 3 car in some respects, but it's been a mighty effort to get a grid of these cars ready, with 20 nations represented in the F4 Cup. Now, David Addison and John Watson trackside. The road itself damp but drying. The sun is doing its best, Watty, to break through as these teenage tearaways take to the track.
First of all, I think an outstanding job by KC Motorsport to build these cars. The quality of the car, apparently, for a spec single-seater, junior single-seater, exceptional. There you can see the flashing lights indicating there's a bit of harvesting is going on with the hybrid system. And the purpose of the hybrid system in these cars is to give young, I mean, some of them are kids basically, the first feelings of where the future of motorsport is going to lie. You can get to the heady heights of Formula One with all the technology there, but you need to learn somewhere, and this is one of the areas where they're going to begin that learning process.
Well, yesterday, this was all about Italy, because the fastest driver in both sessions was Andrea Rosso, who's been a regular in the Italian F4 Championship, so he's used to the engine, without the hybrid element, but he's used to that Abarth engine. And so consistent was he topped both sessions, and although he went quicker in FP2, he only went quicker by 86 thousandths of a second.
Wasn't trying, was he? The other aspect of these cars is they are, I would say, totally non-adjustable. The car is given to each of the competitors, and that's it. There's nothing you can do. Aerodynamics are fixed. Basically, everything on the car is fixed. It's up to you and your team to get your head around it, get out there and get the job done. Now, some kids come out of karting and they're used to a racing car turning on a snooze. Some that are maybe 15 or 16, much older and more mature, like a car that's maybe steering or driving from the rear wheel. It doesn't matter. This is the car. Get on and use it. Everybody's in the same situation, and the track is, we see, beginning to get marginally dry, but on these tyres, they still will be struggling. They'll be in wet tyres at the minute. We have a car in the gravel, we understand, which is Malaysia. Jasper Tong has gone off, and also Mohamed Al Nusif has had a spin for Kuwait. We've just seen his brother going off the road in the previous session for the touring cars. Now it is for Kuwait the turn of Mohamed Al Nusif, and he's had a drama. Here currently is Laszlo Toth for Hungary. We'll get times, of course, at the end of their first flying lap. 25 minutes this session, and Toth goes off as well. Coming into the stadium, that's caught out a lot of cars, caught them out in touring cars a few minutes ago. Again, just the front brake locks up, and then the front, and there we see
red flag.
So no surprise, we'll probably see certainly a number of yellow flags, if not red flags. Well, this is cleared. Car 18 is in the gravel bed at turn 8, and that's more or less as you come back into the stadium.
So Niels Vitic, who is the race director, calls for the red flag, and that really gives you, what, 3.5 minutes wasted, because no one's done a proper lap. They've just about got some temperature into the tyres, and now they've all got to come back to the pit lane.
Clock stops.
Indeed.
So this is a 30-minute session, or 25-minute session. So it could actually turn out to be a 45-minute session.
Yes.
Depending on how long it takes to clear a car that might be in the gravel or whatever else may occur. So it makes a big pressure and difficult conditions. It's relatively early in the morning, it's about 9:15. I mean, most of these kids will probably be going to bed at this time, let alone being up in a race car trying to qualify for their event.
There's Nicolas Bat, who's been racing in the Spanish F4 Championship this year. He's representing Belgium. You've got Australia, Belgium, Brazil, the Czech Republic, Germany, Denmark, Spain, Finland, France, Hong Kong, Hungary, Ireland, Israel, Italy, Japan, Kuwait, Malaysia, New Zealand, Portugal, and Russia in the F4 Cup.
So they're all having to come back at a very reduced pace, 50 kilometers maximum per hour back into the pit lane, and then it'll all get underway. We don't even have a recorded lap from anybody.
No.
We've got sector times, but no recorded laps.
And they're going to lose another couple of minutes at least before they can do even the start of a flying lap. There is an experienced driver, Lewis Leeds, for Australia. He's raced in the Australian Formula 4 Championship, but he's also raced in the UK, the British Formula 4 Championship that supports the BTCC. Third in that a couple of years ago. He's raced in the Toyota Racing Series. He's done a bit of Formula Renault racing. He's also dabbled in Porsches in Australia.
Good man. And of course, his entrant is Cams, the Australian, effectively compared to our RAC in Great Britain or the RIAC in Ireland. There's an Irish entry here. Luca Allen, entered by Motorsport Ireland. So there we can see the New Zealand Flynn Mulloway. That's a pretty Irish name, I have to say.
The 17-year-old student who's a regular in the New Zealand Formula First Championship. There is the man to beat on the evidence of yesterday, Andrea Rosso. So take it as read. Rosso is quickest in both of the free practice sessions and looking very, very consistent yesterday. Home circuit, so he knows Vallelunga. He has a bit of experience of the power unit. Here you've got for Finland, William Alatalo, who's also a regular in Italian F4. Very much an arrive and drive concept, this. KCMG's mechanics, that many of them have been working on a similar concept in W Series this year, operating these cars. There's the Irish entry, John.
Nothing wrong with that. So Luke Allen needs to go and find, well, he hasn't recorded a time as nobody has, so he was 14th out onto the circuit and he stays 14th currently in such as we have timing and scoring.
That's
21 minutes remaining.
That's the current Danish F4 champion, Malte Jakobsen. So he could be a man to watch in this. 22 is for Russia, Pavel Bulantsev, former karter, and the North European Zone Formula 4 champion this year. So Bulantsev is another driver that should be up at the pointy end of the grid for Russia. For Israel is Ido Cohen, 6th in the Italian Championship this year, also been racing in the German series. You cannot help but appreciate the spread of countries we have in these motorsport games.
Well, I think it's wonderful. In fact, just walking into the paddock and you look around and see the countries that are supporting both this Formula 4 event, the touring cars, and of course the GTs. And I mean, I said to you this morning, I didn't realize the extent of motorsport on a global, let alone on a European platform. I mean, it is, the industry is absolutely enormous across single-seaters, touring cars, GT3s particularly, yeah. And then you get into all the exotica at the very high end of motorsport. But this is the grassroots. It is this formula in particular, Formula 4, which will eventually produce the heroes and the stars of the future.
And this really is the first time that we have seen an F4 competition like this with drivers coming from all over. Now, of course, there's no standardized Formula 4 car. There's a set of regulations that a car must comply to, but it differs country to country, region to region, whereas here everybody is in the same base car, and it is a great starting point. As there you see the Malaysian entry at the end of the pit lane, good to go. That is Jasper Tong. His brother Sean Tong, you'll be familiar with from GT racing and sports car racing, but Jasper Tong, who's been studying in the UK, looks like he's got a problem and he's stuck at pit out there, so it's not a happy start to the day for Malaysia. The pit lane light is green. The pit exit is open. The FIA officials there trying to encourage activity ahead.
I'm not sure there's maybe some confusion at the end of the pit lane. It is a green track.
Yeah.
So Malaysia was sitting there waiting, and I don't know whether they were uncertain as to whether the signal at the end of the pit lane was green, or maybe there was no signal. They couldn't see where the light was to indicate get out on the track. But there we see green flashing lights looking back towards the pit lane exit, down through turn 2 into turn 3. Track conditions still tricky, little bits of river and rivulets around the racetrack. Down the bottom end, probably at its best.
This hybrid system, the driver doesn't actually control. There's no push to pass, for example. It's a little bit like a kick down on an automatic gearbox. It will kick in at low revs as you're coming out of a slow corner. So it does the work for you almost automatically. It's not at the driver's behest. So the system is there, but it's great that the hybrid technology is incorporated. As you look here at the Spanish entry, this is the 20-year-old Belen Garcia, who has been front runner this year in Spanish F4, and we'll see what she can do over the course of this qualifying session. Belen Garcia heading towards us. Look at the spray still being generated.
Yes, this is again the uphill run into turn. This is where in fact the red flag incident occurred. And this, of course, people problems under braking, turning in, and then on the exit, of course, getting grip off. So there you see the exit and the run down into turn 10. So that's the 7, 8, 9 little sequence. Locking up again, just getting overrun.
And here in replay for Q8, having another moment, Mohamed Al-Nusif, big lose, and around it goes. Skates back onto the circuit, but trying very hard, but a bit too hard.
Yes, I mean, the difference between grip and out of control is probably such a fine line.
Yeah.
And if you just try to push maybe that little bit harder than on your previous lap, that is the outcome you're going to have to deal with. So Belen Garcia, as she comes up, but she's going to concede the position. No, she stays where she wants to be into turn 14.
Keeping Nicolas for Belgium behind. Next time around, we'll get proper lap times up.
Interesting to see if the Belgian entry can find a way around. Cars identical horsepower, identical cars in every respect. So if you're not quicker off the final turn, you're not going to get past all the way down pit straight through turns 2 and 3 in particular. We'll have a look down going into turn 4. Goes the long way around, but is that little bit quicker, gets track position, but still really not able to get the job done. Cautious under braking, probably rightly so. If he had made an error, he would have been going straight down and off the track rather than getting him around turn 4 and 5.
There is the Australian car. Lewis Leeds at the helm of it. See all these cars, of course, as befits a modern-day single-seater race car with the Halo system, the Halo device. There it is. And Nico Bert comes through, still stuck really behind Garcia, and then loses traction, and around goes Belgium. Back in the right direction. Finds first gear, accelerates away, and again, straight off, struggles for traction.
Yeah, I mean, just we've talked about it all the way through touring cars. We're now talking about on Formula 4. Track conditions, temperatures are still low. Of course, different tyres on these, on a Pirelli tyre rather than what we saw on the touring cars. So getting the tyre, again, the difficulty of getting up at the cutting.
That's Hugo Hung again, second off of the session. Gone a long way off this time, almost onto that escape road through the
that's what was
route.
Effectively the original racetrack.
Q8 well, again. Mohamed Al-Nusif, that's what his third moment that we've seen.
Still haven't had a lap, a fast, or anybody recording a lap. 17 minutes to go. We'll get one in eventually, but well, this is the car number 3 we think might well be Australia setting a time. Finally, a driver will have completed a lap and will give us the fastest lap to date.
A benchmark time offered up then by Australia. Lewis Leeds up towards the timing line, and we've got another red flag. Our second stoppage of the session, and that I can only assume again is for Hugo Hung off the road, and he's not restarting, so he can't get the car fired up. This is becoming a lottery now because nobody is getting a lap in, and we are down to 17 minutes. The clock stops again.
The best lap is actually by the Spanish lady who has done a 2:00.79.
There's the cause of the second stoppage. I think the race director might be having a word with Hugo Hung because that's the second time he's effectively caused a red flag.
And that time is 24 seconds off what was done in dry conditions yesterday. 24 seconds. Must be tricky out there, all I can think.
Well, I think that is being borne out, isn't it, by the rather wayward lines that some are taking. So our second red flag. Timetable starts to crumble around the ears of the race officials. Even early in the day, we are not even at 9:25 local time yet. There for Japan is Kazuto Kotaka, third in Japanese Formula 4 a couple of years ago, fifth in Japanese Formula 3 this season.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Very competitive championship in Japan.
There for the Czech Republic is Václav Safar, who's been racing in Italian and German F4 this season. Pirelli wet, of course, being used in this session currently. And we're also being told that we have got the Hungarian car off the road as well. Laszlo Toth has stopped, and that's now corrected to car 12 being the one that's caused the red flag. So the race director changing his mind as to the reason for the stoppage. The message line just changing as we speak.
You'd like to be a fly in the cockpit and learn the comments that the driver, I suspect it all focuses on. It is absolutely, well, we don't know what to think. There is a lack of grip between the car and the racetrack, and this is why we're seeing all these incidents now. Second red flag stopping the session, clock still stopped. But I did sort of cynically suggest this session could last 45 minutes. It's meant to be 25 minutes.
I mean, yesterday they had red flags in free practice, partly because of the weather, and they just weren't getting any running in, so the session generously was extended yesterday, and then the heavens opened, and people just bailed because they couldn't stay out, so the time extension was all rather academic. There for France is Rachad Dejarus, who was the runner-up in the French F4 Championship this year. Rachad Dejarus down the pit road. Also the F4 rookie winner in France in 2018, so somebody with a decent pedigree.
I bet you they're all saying to them, oh, undo the rear roll bar, give me some traction. Can't do it, I'm afraid. Not allowed to make these alterations.
There's Laszlo Toth for Hungary. There's no point telling you where he is in the times because nobody's done a time. Those times that we had offered up that John mentioned were actually done just as they come over the line after the red flag, so they didn't count. So right now we've had almost 10 minutes and not a lap time.
It isn't going to get a lot better. I don't want to be negative, but track conditions, the pressure is building on all these 22 competitors to try and get in a lap, a single flying lap that they can say, well, I've got a benchmark, I can work from that.
There is Belen Garcia, part of the female contingent racing here this weekend. Of course, the FIA promoting the Girls on Track message. So we've got a lot of female representation along through karting, the Digital Cup as well.
What about boys on track? Anybody thought about that ever?
You should start a campaign, John.
I think it would be a very worthy one.
There is Belen Garcia, who was looking pretty decent up until that red flag. Right, we've gone green, so the session is back live. Quick, says Niels Vitic, the race director, trying to crack on with this and get everybody out onto the circuit once again. You have to feel for the drivers, don't you, in all of this, because they're just not getting the time in there. Crouched down, former British Formula 3 champion Kelvin Burt, who's part of the KCMG engineering and driver coaching squad this weekend.
Wow, and he landed on his feet. They had a great racing career in the UK, particularly in British touring cars, and a nice operation to be a part of. So, again, it is a single-make car. It is a fixed and literally rigidly fixed specification. So, no alterations. What is available is so minute, it's not going to make any significant difference in these difficult conditions.
So, out we go again. They'll get an out lap, then they'll try and do a time lap, and hopefully the message is getting through from the engineers. Just drive within your limits, try to get a time. Brazil on the money straight away there. You saw João Rosate getting himself through the traffic. He's this year's champion in the Brazilian Sprint Race Series, which is a kind of silhouette touring car series, so very different from a single-seater that he's now been dropped in on a brand new circuit, in a brand new car, in the greasy conditions today.
Surprising when young Brazilians come over to Europe, regardless of conditions, they always come to the top. So very quickly, wanting to get clear air, which he's now achieved. He's the first car effectively on the circuit in green flag conditions. So this is his outlap, slowly and cautiously through that sequence of corners at turn 8, turn 9. Seeing a lot of the issues of where red flags have been. So down into turn 10. He looks like he knows what he's doing.
Yes, this is impressive.
It doesn't take an awful lot to see. There are some drivers who understand better than others, and some will get there more slowly than others. But I must say, Rosate looks as if he has got an idea of what he's up to.
He was 7th and 10th, or 10th and 7th in order across the free practice session. 7th was his better effort in FP2. So, yeah, you would certainly say that Rosate should be up near the pointy end. And, of course, part of that all rather depends on what sort of lap times he can get in. But right now, he is the benchmark driver within the middle sector. He's about to come up and break the beam. So, let's see. Here he comes. Rosate goes through, and now onto a proper flying lap. So João Rosate into the Curva Grande now, and he's got the road to himself. This could be good.
It could be the first flying lap that actually has got any meaning. Coming down into turn 4, around about 200 kilometers per hour. Certainly that's what they were doing in dry conditions. Then on the brakes through 4, through 5. Looks, again, I'll repeat what I said a lap earlier, looks as if he understands what he's got to do in the cockpit. And he's not forcing the car, but he's putting energy in a positive way and not overdriving at the same time.
So right now, he will be the man setting good sectors, 34.2 in the first. We had a 34.0 before the red flag from Israel. The surprise yesterday of Ido Cohen, who's been looking really good in the Italian Championship this year, as I say, but the first gun time about to be offered up here by Brazil. So yesterday, a 1:36 was the best. They're not going to get anywhere near that in these damp conditions, but let's see, here is the absolute best thus far in the middle sector, as through the looping right of turn 10 of Semaforo goes Rosate, and now into this real paperclip switchback round the back of the paddock.
Yeah, so far on his out lap, on his first flying lap, he has not put a wheel wrong. I know coming through turns 12 and 13, you could get caught out. One of those small bits of the racetrack, you can just see the back end of the car snapping momentarily. Now into this long parabolic turn 14. So he's completed a trouble-free, in effect, first flying lap. Wait to see what that time is against. A 1:36 was the dry time.
That's a 53.4, so some way of drifting that.
Well, 17 seconds down.
Yeah. Well, there's your target. At least we've got a lap time in, eh?
We've got 2 lap times in now.
Because Israel even faster. Ido Cohen, 1:52.163. Israel, as a nation, perhaps you wouldn't necessarily say is a great motorsporting country, but there is good support for it. And Cohen looked really decent in the Italian Championship this year. Up to second now goes Japan, Kazuto Kotaka. So gradually we're starting to get a grid formed. And there is Q8, the car of Mohamed Al-Nusif.
So whether it's just a refocus of everybody in the field, or whether track conditions are just that marginally improved, certainly the lap times and the top 3 have all popped up. Quickest principally was number 5 Rosate, and he's now dropped down in the space of what would be half a lap down into 4th place. So let's have a look and see where he is. He hasn't done anything in the first sector that would indicate he's going to go any quicker. And it is Cohen, Ivo Cohen, who's got that fastest first sector time. No, that's gone to the Finnish driver, currently in 3rd place, who's got fastest overall sector 1. And it's changing now literally by the sector as drivers are picking up both confidence and pace.
The one to watch is Finland, because William Alatalo has just gone 3rd and he's now done the absolute best in the first sector. So Finland flying. Here is Brazil 4th, not looking as good in the sectors.
No, but he's, that again, that little sequence of corners through 10, 11, 12, back end just again stepping out. It ought to be an improvement, but we've only seen a personal best in sector 2. First sector, he didn't make any improvement, so he's got this final sector to see whether he can drag himself up to the top 3, currently in 4th position. Comes across start-finish line and remains in 4th position. Didn't improve.
Indeed, so it is Israel the fastest, 1:51.037.
Timing and scoring is a little bit behind the picture, so he has actually improved 1 place up into 3rd.
10 minutes to go. Here's the next wave of cars, including Malaysia. This in the hands of Jasper Tong, coming up towards the timing line. Also going through is Brazil. 3rd for Rosate. That last lap was a 1:52.666. Up to 2nd, though, now goes Denmark. So Malte Jakobsen, the Danish champion this year, briefly 2nd, but I told you that Finland was flying. Well, William Alatalo is up to 2nd, and the margin is under half a second now. So Israel, Finland, the front row of the grid.
Israel doesn't have a huge, certainly I remember a Formula 2 race in Israel, it may have been in about 1971 or something. Didn't really happen, and everybody packed up and basically did a runner. So great to see Israeli drivers coming through these junior ranks.
Yeah.
And certainly making an impression here on a 1:51.0. That's almost half a second quicker than 2nd place at Italo in Finland.
Now, Bolintsev for Russia, yet to do a lap time, but this is the Russian champion, or the North European zone, the equivalent of the Russian series, if you like. It's an SMP-backed title, and Bolintsev should be one to watch on this lap. Israel quicker again, because now a 1:51.037 is the gun time. So it's Israel, Finland, Australia. Lewis leads up to 3rd. 4th Denmark, 5th Japan, 6th Brazil, 7th Italy. Now that's interesting. Italy, quickest FP1, quickest FP2, but not being able to get his hat on with qualifying here, Andrea Rosso.
Tricky conditions, but Cohen fastest overall Sector 1 and Sector 2, currently fastest overall anyway. And when he comes up to complete his lap, as Bulletin slips and slides all the way through 12 and 13. So Finland is up to consolidated in second place, but the gap between is 1.5 seconds now between first and second. Yeah, that's a massive amount of difference. So Cohen has done a 150.024, 1.5 seconds quicker than the Finnish car.
And Bulletin then goes through up to second on his first flying lap. Russia second. Okay, he's 1.3 seconds back. But how about that? They're leaving it almost to the end. 8 minutes on the clock. Boom, straight away, he's onto the front of the grid.
So Ivo Cohen and runs wide and into the stadium, so that's blown that lap. But he's still got that very comfortable 1.2 second cushion. And now it's number 17, Katala, in the Japanese entry. He's popped up into second place, 1.2 seconds behind. The gap between second and third is 39 hundredths of a second, so they're virtually tied in terms of lap time. Whoa! Not where you want to do that, Mr. Cohen.
It's getting a bit scrappy, this. He might be the fastest, and he's done 2 absolute best. So scrappy or not, even though we've seen him off the road, he is still setting absolute best. Their third, Germany, all of a sudden. That is Niklas Kreutern, who was the rookie champion in last year's German F4 Championship, has raced in the Euro Formula F3 series this year, but Kreutern going nicely. But right now, Cohen for Israel has had a spin out of our view, and so the lap that was looking really, really good, I'm afraid, has been scrapped because of the spin. But 2 absolute bests made it look good to begin with, but it's all unravelled for him. And
there you go, and I mean that's down in, well, that's your drifter's corner.
It is, that's turn 11.
Yeah, that's a very slow entry. Try and get the exit, late apex. You can see the tire marks on the curbing. That's the very last part of the exit of the corner. That's where you want to get your car pointing to get the maximum speed out. So Cohen still has that advantage of 1.2 seconds. Nobody since, what, a lap and a bit ago has challenged him.
What about Italy? Because we've got improvements coming now from Russia up to second. Pavel Bulletin again, 0.235 of a second back. Denmark third, Malte Jakobsen. So the margin now has gone from over a second to just 0.2 between the two on the front row, Israel and Russia. But Italy, I'll start my sentence about, where in all of this is Andrea Rosso. He's down to 10th, and off the road there is 21. That is Portugal, Mariano Pires. That's going to be a stoppage, I would have thought.
It'll be a red flag, I suspect.
There
the car is too close to the exit of the corner. So red flag, so we've got 6 minutes and 6 seconds of this session remaining. And all of a sudden, we've got a real challenge going on for the top 3 positions, covered by 3/4 of a second, but the gap between second and third is pretty small. Cohen still has that 2.235 advantage, but as he went into that last lap, certainly pushing maybe to the point where overdriving was coming in and the sort of loss of that control that you need in difficult conditions was beginning to wane.
So our third red flag of this rather lengthy session now. 15th was Portugal, Mariano Pires, before he went off the road, managed by Thiago Monteiro, former Grand Prix racer, incidentally. So now everybody has to trickle back round to the pit lane, 6 minutes to go, and the pit exit closed until the race director gives the go-ahead. What can they do in 6 minutes? They should be able to get at least 1, maybe 2 flying laps in, but again, anything they've just earned in terms of tire pressure and temperature dissipates.
Yeah, I mean, this session should have ended at 09:35, and almost 4 minutes beyond that. We've still got another 6 minutes or so on the clock, so it's going to overrun, in theory, by minimal 10 minutes. And looking at the Ireland entry, Luca Allen slightly off the pace presently, down in 16th position on a 157, and that's 7 seconds away. So, I mean, some drivers have adapted to these conditions more quickly than others. Just adjusting the tire pressures again. Tire pressures are fixed. You can't come in and try something a little bit creative on the tire pressure front. So that's all been monitored by the engineers with each of the cars.
So right now, Israel, Russia, Japan, Australia, Denmark, Germany, Finland, Brazil, France, Italy is the order. Italy being the surprise for the wrong reasons, having really dominated the 2 free practice periods yesterday, struggling. Now the pressure is on in qualifying.
Well, entirely different track conditions. I mean, what would have occurred yesterday, I mean, we did have damp running at different points of Friday afternoon, but essentially it was a dry track, a dry line pretty much all the way around. What we've got this morning is a racetrack which is a totally different circumstance whatsoever. So, it's car 21, and that's the Portuguese entry of Mariano Perez getting out of the car as they're going to, I thought they might have tried to drag the car back onto the track, but decided it's going to be picked up by one of the recovery vehicles, so we're sitting waiting for that all to be concluded. And Matthias Jacobsen currently in 5th place, 0.8 of a second down, but only 38 hundredths away from getting onto the second row of the grid, just behind the Australia car. Yeah, thumbs up, everything looking good.
That's Leinders there, who is the team manager, effectively, of the Belgian squad for the entirety of these FIA Motorsport Games. The first time we've had the brand new competition. It's grown out of the FIA GT Nations Cup that we had in Bahrain last year. And here, just outside Rome, this circuit that opened in 1951, it was initially a horse racing oval that was converted into a car racing circuit. Vallelonga has been a really good venue for it, and a very, very spectacular opening ceremony on Thursday evening in Rome itself. So Portugal's entry is hoiked out of harm's way, and as soon as possible, we'll get the session back underway. Everybody on their toes, good to go. Hong Kong, Hugo Hung, no time recorded because he went off earlier and caused one of our 3 Drapeau Rouge.
So, second place, number 22, Russia. Pretty happy, Pavel Bulantsov. Get my tongue around all these new names. So, in second place, 2/10 of Ivo Cohen in the Israel entry. A little bit of a pep talk.
So you just go when you're ready.
So just go when you're ready. When the track is green, it's green now. Just under 6 minutes of the session remaining. There's the Japanese entry. So Japan in 3rd place.
Right, we're good to go again. Everybody heading out on track. Pit exit is open there for Japan. That is the car of Kotaka, who has put himself, what, 3rd at the moment. Good effort. 5.5 minutes. I mean, you lose, given the conditions anyway, a lot of time with an out lap. Then you've got to do a flying lap.
So an out lap's going to probably be, what, the thin end of 2 minutes by the time you accelerate out of the pit lane, assuming that you push at the pace you would have been doing when you were doing a flying lap. So the clock's going to drop away pretty quickly. So by the time they come up to complete this out lap, there's going to be about 4 minutes or so, and that's going to be just about 2 laps, depending where you are. And when you went out back onto the track, those that are at the tail end of the field, they'll probably struggle to get 2 laps in the time remaining. So Australia comes through the cutting up through turns 9. Again, this has been one of the areas which has caught drivers out. The braking primarily, but just running slightly wide, catching the curb. So down into turn 10.
Whoop. Another slide. That's Lewis Leeds pressing on, but of course tire temperature has gone, hasn't it now, while he's been sat in the pit lane?
Such as it might have been. I mean,
well,
it probably
indeed,
wouldn't have been a huge amount of tire temperature, but whatever you had would have dissipated sitting in the pits. No tire covers are there. No, it's as motor racing should be.
It does put the pressure on the drivers. Yes, we're seeing lots of mistakes, but we're also, the flip side of that coin is we're seeing the stars who are being able, like Ido Cohen for Israel, to nail this straight away.
So let's see what Lewis Leeds in the Australia entry will do. Currently 4th quickest on a 150.839, so goes on to a flying lap. Just under 4 minutes of the session remaining. Through turns into 3. I love this turn 3. It was always a challenge, but always a very satisfying corner. Then down the hill, this is the lowest part of the Vallelunga 4-kilometer circuit into turn 4. Just watching, trying to see the hand movement, how much correction was being required, but makes a clean exit out of 5, then the climb up the hill and through the curve that is 6. I mean, it's turn 6 really is not really a corner, it's just a curve. Then up into the braking at 7.
He's done the absolute best in the first sector, so Lewis Leeds here might be, for Australia, good for provisional pole position. Remember, this qualifying session sorts out the race 1 grid. It's the result of race 1 for race 2, and the medals come from race 2, and Leeds is about to undo all the good work.
And again, as that sequence of corners up into the cutting that's catching out so many drivers. So his personal best, his overall, in fact, the quickest overall in sector 1. Good effort indeed, but it's all been and done, as you said, David, just coming into that middle sector, into the stadium, and just pushing fraction. Red flag infringement will be investigated after the session. Doesn't say with which car that might have been, just a notification came up.
Interesting.
So back to Lewis Leeds.
So Australia, 7/10 down in the middle. Now, Israel, absolute best in the middle sector. There's going to be one more lap for Australia out of this. A flying lap is, at best, a 2:06.
He'll get this lap. He might sneak one more.
Yeah, the timing line
Very
is
close. Now,
there. Just in front of the yellow deckled building. So, yeah, he's just about going to squeeze 2 in, whereas the others will get 1. Leads Australia second.
if he hadn't made that error, he would have gone quickest without hesitation,
Yeah.
question or doubt. Further down the field, number 7, German entry, Niklas Krutenen. He's got a personal best in sector 2. So
Israel into the 49s. Ido Cohen for Israel, 1:49.752. This is Niklas Kreutzen down in 1, absolute best in 2. We've got Lewis Leeds, as I say, now third, because Italy second. Andrea Rosso second by 0.164 of a second. All of a sudden, this session is coming alive, isn't it?
it's coming alive, and we're seeing a compression of the times.
Russia goes top.
I've got to say, I'm just looking, where's that time come from? 1:49.256, half a second quicker than Cohen in second place. Russo third for Italy, and Kreutzen fourth for Germany.
And there's Japan. So what's he up to? Because there, Kotaka, I thought, was heading for the pit lane, but he stays out. Another red flag, another one, and it's Hong Kong again. Hugo Hung is off the road. Well, there's no point restarting, because with a minute to go, you can't do anything. So that's going to be the end of the session. But 4 red flags. I think the race director's going to want a little word with some of them.
I think a little word is an understatement. I think big word. Look, these are youngsters in really difficult track conditions. They're pushing. They're trying to do the best with a fixed spec car, a car that's a total strange vehicle to them. You've got to give them a certain amount of slack. Unfortunately, we've got a program, so this is knocking the program back a little bit. Nevertheless, outstanding lap by Pavel Budislav in the Russia entry, half a second up on Ivo Cohen, who's been the driver that has kind of dominated so much of this session that we've just been watching, and he now will feel, well, I don't know what he's going to feel. And then the Italian entry, number 16, and Andrea Rosso might feel that he's sort of upholding the honours of his nation. Here, racetrack, a lovely racetrack. Outside the craziness of driving in Rome, it's the tranquility almost of driving at Vallelunga.
So Russia tops the times at the very end of a very odd session. 1:49.256, the time done by Pavel Buletsev from Israel, Italy, Germany, Australia, and then Brazil to round out the top 6. Japan 7th, ahead of Denmark, France, and Finland. Coming home 10th, ahead of Belgium, Spain, Hungary, the Czech Republic, and 15th, Ireland. 16th quickest was Malaysia, ahead of Portugal, one of the nations causing a stoppage. Kuwait 18th, New Zealand 19th, Hong Kong not getting a time in with the drama that befell Hugo Hung, causing 2 of those 3 red flags. Let's have a look at the highlights. There were, of course, some real excellent bits of that, in and amongst lots of people making mistakes, and for much of it, Israel looking as though it had the advantage, but ultimately, of course, it was Russia that left its real attack until the last 8 minutes or so. in that much elongated session that was able to go top. Q8 was a nation pushing hard but having a spin. Mohamed Al-Nusif losing it there coming out of turn 7, but was able to get back in the right direction and push on once more. Belgium also, Nico Bert, he was another driver that had had a spin early when he was chasing Belen Garcia. But as the session wore on, it was Hong Kong in strife, causing stoppages. Hugo Hung, engineered by the very experienced Chris Weller, having dramas there. A look at what happened for Q8. Another big slide for Al-Nusif, but he was able to get going again. The red flag, I'm afraid, was the constant of that session. Israel, Edo Cohen looking good, but he made a couple of mistakes, and that compromised him towards the end of the session. And ultimately, that was the one that really was the undoing. He'd done 2 absolute bests on that lap before he slithered off the road. And it was Portugal causing red flag 3. They went back out for one last crack, and that was interrupted again by Hong Kong. So, it is Russia that's topping the F4 Cup qualifying times. More from Vallelunga in a few minutes here. Bye. flag for the qualifying session for the FIA Motorsport Games GT Cup, with the field pouring out onto a circuit that is getting drier but is still very treacherous indeed. Two lively free practice sessions yesterday for a mighty field of cars. Great variety, not only in terms of the nations but the drivers, but also the brands that are represented on the grid. Yesterday the two sessions topped the first free practice session by France, courtesy of Jim Plough's time, the second by Switzerland, Patrick Niederhauser. It's a really fascinating entry of drivers and driver combinations as well, and indeed the teams operating the cars, and John, our first spinner in the background.
And again, at that particular corner, turns 8 and 9, caught out so many people in the touring car, so many in the Formula 4, catches out on an outlap in the GT3s. And here we have cars we're more familiar with, infinitely adjustable, which is, for a driver in these conditions, something to think about. How can I improve my car? It isn't raining presently, but just to the back of the circuit, it looks pretty dark and dire. So whether the rain will hold off for this 50-minute session or whether it will contribute to the excitement, we don't know. Two drivers, of course, per car.
And it's one driver, one session, as you are used to in a kind of sprint GT format, even though it's double driver. So Turkey represented in this session, and of course this is the nation that won the FIA GT Nations Cup in Bahrain last year. Salah Yoluç goes first. Australia, Stephen Grove is behind the wheel. For Kuwait, it is Khalid Al Murhaf. For Denmark, Jens Müller will do the driving in this session. For Malaysia, it's going to be Adrian da Silva. For America, it will be Robert Ferriol. Then for Spain, Alvaro Ribera. For Italy, it is Gianluca Roda, which therefore is dad. Hong Kong, Paul Ip. Belarus, Alexander Tulkinitz, a senior. For Switzerland, Christoph Lenz. Poland, Andrzej Lewandowski. For Chinese Taipei, Hans Lin. Then for China, it is going to be Yaki Zhang. For France, Jean-Luc Bobelic. Belgium, Louis Machiels. Great Britain, you can see Flick Haig, British GT champion last season. Portugal, Miguel Ramos. For Japan, it should be Hiroshi Hamaguchi, but the car has not yet gone out. Russia, Rinat Salikov. For Thailand, Buttikorn Intrapuvasak. And for Germany, Stefan Gehrig, or if you prefer, because this is how he races in Blancpain GT Sports Club, Edward Lewis Browner, but he's using his real name rather than his pseudonym for the purposes of representing his country. So as yet, Japan not out there. The FFF Racing Team run car. Here is the AF Corsa run Ferrari. Flick Haig at the wheel of it, setting the target time.
Doing a very good job. Fastest first and second sectors overall. She will probably go for how long? Maybe momentarily or maybe a little bit longer. First recorded time is going to be the fastest time. Purple, how appropriate. A 1:48.8, followed by the 19. And that is the Spanish entry, the Lamborghini Fernando Navarrete, or Alvaro, and in fact, Flick Haig's time has been overtaken, and now we're seeing times literally as the cars come across, start-finish line, beginning to improve on that momentary quickest lap. Good lap by Flick Haig.
That is the reigning GT champions, because Turkey heads into the long looping right-hander of Semaforo. That's turn 10. Salah Yoluç at the wheel. You see the tar marks where people have been skating off the road there at 11, round the back of the paddock. All arms and elbows there. Ever so skittish, this TF Sport Run car that he knows inside out. He's been racing it in the World Endurance Championship, in Blancpain Endurance GT races this year as well. So partnering again with Ayşen Güven, with whom he won the Nations Cup last year. Yoluç is going to start as a favourite.
I think with many people's eyes, on this entry, the Turkey entry would be the favourite. Certainly after the success they have enjoyed last year, but primarily Salah Yoluç improving really by the event. Comes across start-finish line, goes so unsurprisingly quickest overall. His first flying lap by a third of a second. These cars considerably quicker than anything we've seen so far today, around about 230-ish kilometers per hour coming down into turn 4. The thin end of around about just under 140 miles an hour.
There's the Honda NSX, run by Jens Müller's own team of Renault Racing. There are two of these, because you'll see the other car in the hands of Hong Kong represented by Paul Ip and Marchi Lee. Jens Müller, this year's Blancpain GT Sports Club champion, which is really the Gentleman Racers Series, but go back, for 15 years, he was in the Le Mans 24 Hours in the Lister.
Ranet Selikov in the Russia entry, the Ferrari. He's now quickest overall, as Müller slides very wide coming out of turn 10. Runs the curb, these curbs wet, so very much less traction available. And all of a sudden, Selikov, who had gone quickest, has been demoted all the way down to third place in the space of me saying it. So 1:45.9 is the gun lap right now, over half a second quicker than the Thai entry, the 911 Porsche. Didn't have to say that, did I? But I did.
And now Poland goes top. Andrzej Lewandowski, who won the Pro-Am class in the Lamborghini World Final a week ago. Poland is top by 0.8 of a second. There is Jens Müller sharing with Christina Nielsen. You've got the order on screen. Poland, Italy, Thailand, Denmark, Malaysia, Russia, Spain, China, Turkey, France. That's the top 10 there. Certainly a potential winning nation. Poland represented by, in this session, Andrzej Lewandowski and Artur Janos in Q2.
And that's how you go through turns 4 and 5. Lewandowski showed the way you can make those two corners effectively one big arc, and he's done it successfully, and there's no surprise to see why that car currently fastest overall by now 0.8 of a second. So a big gap between first and second, smaller gap between second and third, smaller, just over 0.6 of a second.
Now Poland getting stuck in traffic, whereas Italy, Gianluca Roda, has done an absolute best in Sector 2, gets past the German Porsche there. Lewandowski still pushing on, goes ahead of Stefan Göring. We have now got Hamaguchi out on track in the Japan Nation Lamborghini, run by the FFF racing team.
But Ranet Selikov has gone second quickest in the Russia entry, 0.2 of a second now down on the Polish entry.
So here is Poland, and this car operated by the Vincenzo Sospiri racing squad. Vincenzo himself, excellent single-seater racer in his time.
Vincent, great personality.
Indeed so. And his first car race win at Oct Park of all places.
But you know what's obvious? What downforce can give a driver.
Yeah.
We didn't see it in the touring cars, we didn't see it in the Formula 4s. GT3 cars generate a lot of downforce in comparison, and that's just shining through right now. You can see, the speed that these cars can carry, but it's the speed into corners like turn 4 and 5, or not so much up here around turn 8 and 9, but certainly on the corners where the aero factor becomes a part, that's where these cars are really, really able to use their benefit.
So there is Selikov, who is about to encounter traffic as the Ferrari, a car that he's very familiar with, heads now up through turn 10. This entry shared with Denis Bulatov, who, again, from Blancpain GT Racing this last season, we know he's quick. The Lumirank saying that second in the times is where Russia is to be found. Also going quite rapidly at the moment is Hans Lin, who is doing a good job for his nation, which is Chinese Taipei. And now, up to the top of the times, has gone Japan. Hiroshi Hamaguchi, Pro-Am champion in the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe this year, has done a 1:44.991. These times are tumbling.
Indeed they are. Of course, that car part of the FFF racing team, the team that basically dominated everything this season in GT3 Blancpain Championships, and the benefit they have is a car which is extremely well balanced and developed chassis.
There's Australia, dad and lad, the combination. It's father, Stephen Grove, at the wheel of the Porsche, heading up towards the timing line. He's a huge Porsche enthusiast. There's not much in Australian motorsport open to Porsches he's not raced in. There is the quickest car that was, because Hamaguchi has now been bettered by Miguel Ramos. So it's Portugal, Japan, Poland, Russia, Thailand, change that, China, Thailand, Denmark, Italy, Turkey, Taipei. Real mix, eh?
It is. I mean, we're looking at right now a 12-second deficit between what was achieved in dry conditions on Friday and what we're seeing now in conditions that are rapidly improving. Nevertheless, I'm assuming that everybody is still on a wet Pirelli tyre, as Hamaguchi improves again through first and second fastest. Overall, Müller has now gone quickest on a 1:44.7, 2/10 of a second up on Miguel Ramos in the Portuguese entry. So watch Hamaguchi coming across. Can this be a 1:43 or better for the Japanese Lamborghini?
It can.
42.
Excellent time set by Hiroshi Hamaguchi, then 2.3 seconds quicker than anybody else. There is the Jens Müller Danish Honda, second now.
Where's he going to find 2.3 seconds? In finding 0.23 seconds would be achievable. 2.3 is a large ask, going a long way around, feeling there's more bite and grip with the Honda. Listen to the Honda on track yesterday, and it sounds, it's a deep bellowing, almost a growl, where you're hearing the Lamborghinis with the screaming V10. Sounds like a racing engine.
It's interesting looking at the pace of different drivers. There are some, like Louis Machiels for Belgium, who's only 17th. You'd think, and Jean-Luc Bobelic for France, 13th. You'd expect with their experience, they'd be higher up the order. Salah Yolok, who's only 9th for Turkey. Here comes Denmark then. What can she do on this lap, courtesy of Jens Müller? 44.7 was his last lap. This is going to be a 43, is it? No, it's in the 44s again, 44.612. So a 10th quicker, but still not able to get onto pole position. There is the aforementioned Louis Machiels. The car had a suspension gremlin yesterday, so Belgium took time out of FP2 to go and address that.
There's confidence, being able to drop a wheel off the racetrack onto a painted curb and still have the car coming out of the corner, pointing in the right direction. So Louis Machiels currently in 17th position. Let's see where this will lead him.
And this is all new to Machiels because he's a regular in
Ferrari.
an AF Corsa Ferrari,
Absolutely.
and here he is thrown into a new team, Attempto Racing, a new car with a new co-driver, Nico Verdon. So yeah, okay, whoops, he's up the curb and on the grass there as well. You're right, he's certainly pushing. I mean, the Audi we know is always a user-friendly car, but Machiels oh so close there to disaster.
Well, we never really had a chance to focus on him very much when we've been doing our broadcasts over the Blancpain GT season. But we're now on board. Look at this cloud. Now that's what I'm looking at. If that rolls in, and whether over the weekend isn't looking particularly brilliant, if that rolls in, that will really throw the dice. Hamaguchi still dominating by 2.2 seconds from Müller in second place.
So there is the Belgium Audi. And Machiels actually has got the road to himself. Now he's 17th in the times. The target is Switzerland. He's 9/10 away from the Swiss entry. Hamaguchi top in the pits. Hamaguchi sharing, incidentally, with Ukio Sasahara, former single-seater gun. So it's a good combination of drivers there. But Louis Machiels, he's bought clear track space all the way around.
I mean, if you look at this in isolation, you'd say this is going to be a lap that's going to put him up into the top. Certainly half a dozen, if not even higher.
Didn't start off so good, but it was a good middle sector. So Machiels looking strong here. Where's the next improver? It's Paul Itt, the man behind the F4 cars. He is KC Motorsport Group, and 8th in his Honda. Even though he's got his own team, that Honda is being run by the Renault Racing Squad. He reckoned he got enough on his plate with building all the F4 cars. Machiels, hard at work.
I mean, his wheel going one way, back the other way, then running in the curb again. He did it on the previous lap. He's done it on this present lap, coming through turn 14. Feeds the power in. It's interesting that I'm seeing a more animated Louis Machiels in the Audi than I've ever seen in the Ferrari. So comes across the line, was 17th, remains 17th according to timing and scoring. I thought that would have been an improvement.
There's the American car, the Ferrari of Rob Ferriol. For Switzerland, Christoph Lenz, graduate of Lamborghini Super Trofeo. You'll see the nations with the country in the host language, if you like, their language on one side and in English on the other. We've got a spin from the Lamborghini there. That is Japan, isn't it? That's Hamaguchi, who's gone back out, had a rotation on his outlap.
Still, relatively speaking, completely unchallenged.
This is how he did it.
Yeah, it wasn't even on a quick lap. He just got the power on down in the exit of turn 4. Tire temperatures probably fractionally down, and then traffic going all over the place trying to avoid the Lamborghini. The Turkey Aston Martin slips up the inside. So this is the view. There's the wave blue flags. Wow.
Great Porsche battle there. 911 goes through. That's the car of Butikordin Traputhasak. 7th fastest, that very smart grey Porsche.
And that's the Earl Bamber Motorsport, benefiting from his long association with the factory Porsche team and GT Racing and LMP1. So Earl Bamber has extended his portfolio and running, I don't know if he runs it out of Malaysia or not. Well, it is the Malaysia entry.
There's the Honda 22 of Hong Kong, Paul Itt at the wheel of it. 8th fastest. The Earl Bamber Porsche is the one that's for Malaysia, whereas Thailand is Dynamic Motorsport that we saw winning at Monza in the first endurance Blancpain race of the season. 68 is Chinese Taipei, Hans Lin at the wheel of that car at the moment, and 9th fastest he is.
So Muller, second quickest in the Honda, has got that gap. He's taken over half a second out of the advantage that we've seen Hamaguchi enjoy for the last 8 or so minutes. Just under 4 minutes of this part because there's 2 drivers. So they'll come in and then they'll swap over. Lin in the 68, which is Taipei, as you say.
Yeah,
up into 9th place.
So this is a driver with experience of single-seater racing in Europe because he came out of the French FFSA Academy, Asian Formula Renault champion, but GT Asia most recently, Hans Lin. And sharing with Evan Chen, this year's Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia champion. He won that a week ago at Jerez.
These drivers are a mix of bronze, just a little bit aggressive into turn 9 or turn 10. Mix of bronze and silver. There is no pro driver competing in this GT Cup here this weekend, which is interesting because pro drivers tend to breed pro drivers.
And it also puts the emphasis on the silvers to deliver and try and help get the most out of the amp. You've got some very quick amps, like Muller, like Hamaguchi. Intra Puvasak is up to 3rd fastest, and there's an absolute best middle sector being done by Russia. Renat Salikov there is 991. That's the Renault run Porsche for Stefan Göring, Germany. There's Intra Puvasak for Thailand. That's the car run by Dynamic Motorsport. Pretty good, that.
Well, it's a form, I don't know what colour of grey that car happens to be. We know that it usually races in lizard green, but it's sort of morphed into, whoops, a little bit late on the brakes, turning in, off the brakes, and a Porsche, normally a recipe for a rotation, but such as the sophistication, design or development over design in the 911 over the past 60 or so years, it's not like an early 911 was,
no.
Or even earlier 901.
It's true. There is the Thai car, and as John says, 2 shades of grey. There are 50 to choose from, aren't there? 50 shades of grey, but it's looking rapid, this, 3rd in the times. Now, 87, Jean-Luc Bobelik, he's under investigation for rejoining the track in an unsafe manner. We haven't seen him go off it, but he's rejoined apparently in an unsafe way, and he's being looked at by the stewards. Yeah,
we may have a look at that when we get to see the highlights, but as we see, the Porsche comes through, followed by the 991. However, Motorsport, so De Silva's improved.
And Salikov is improving because his last lap was a 44.9. He's just done another personal best in Sector 1. This is Russia we're looking at.
Up to 5th.
Indeed so. Japan, Denmark, Thailand, Portugal, Russia, Poland is the order at the moment. And there's only a minute of the session to go. Where is UK? Flick Haig, struggling actually in this company. It's a car that's new to her. It's a new track. And Flick Haig is only 16th fastest, as now up to the absolute best middle sector goes Salikov, and Hamaguchi, I understand, has ventured out on slicks and has just done 2 absolute bests in Sector 1 and Sector 2, so the road now dry enough for slicks to work, seemingly.
I think that's a choice that was made by the team, maybe more than the driver. The driver obviously would have said, I think it's worth the punt, but the team, FFF Racing, Andrea Caldarelli running that team as well as driving and succeeding outstandingly through this season, would have read track conditions. We think it's worth the punt. You've got 1.7 advantage, which has now just been whittled down. Solly Yolok has gone on 2nd place in the Aston Martin, now 8/10 down on, and Salikov has gone quickest overall. Finally, Hamaguchi's time has been better.
So 1 minute 40.381 from Russia, but Hamaguchi goes quicker still and gets himself back to the top of the times. A formal reprimand will go to Jean-Luc Bobelik for rejoining in an unsafe manner.
So Hamaguchi on those slick tyres. I suspect Salikov may also have made a trip into the pit lane and get a set of slicks as well, because you don't just suddenly jump from where he was, as the checkered flag has been flown.
And Salih Yoluch for Turkey could get himself to the top. He's done an absolute best, but then bettered by Hamaguchi, who is absolutely flying. Now, if you're on the right rubber, then the time is going to come. Here is Hamaguchi sprinting his way out of turn 7. Brake hard for that really sharp left at 8. Burst of acceleration. Slightly softer left at 9. What about Yoluch? He's done an absolute best in the middle sector for Turkey. There he is coming into turn 11 now. So last year's Nations Cup winning nation, Turkey, could get pole in Q1. It's one driver, one session. A flash of the lights. He's 3rd
But Hamaguchi's got purple sectors 1 and 2. So most likely they're going to consolidate the Japan entry. But Saliolic has now got the Honda directly ahead. That will not have too much bearing. So it's Hamaguchi, Salikov, and Yolik, top 3, come across the line. First of the cars to come across. So Yamaguchi has yet to make it. Salikov second.
Yolich goes quickest, 1:39.840, but here is Hamaguchi. It's going to be a good 39. Is it? No, it's a 38, a 1:38.443. Hiroshi Hamaguchi for Japan, 1.3 seconds quicker than anybody else. 1 minute 38.443. His previous lap best was a 1 minute 40.3, so nearly 2 seconds quicker at flagfall. 1:38.443. That is a dynamite lap.
Well, I think that obviously the transition point and going from a slick tyre, from a wet tyre to a slick tyre, has got to be around a middle or a high 1 minute 40, maybe 1:41. And all of a sudden, put the slicks on, they come alive. The difference in grip that you get is just enormous. And in fact, the car just tracks precisely where you turn the wheel. And Yamaguchi has done a great job indeed in his driving stint. Saliolic, who thought he had it all done and dusted, but 1.3 seconds behind. I'm assuming that the Aston was likewise running on a set of slicks, as would have been, I think, the Ferrari. Questionable as to whether Miguel Ramos in the Portugal entry 99 got onto a set. That's in the Audi attempt to racing Audi for Portugal. Got onto a set of, hard to tell. Pit lane might give us some information when we stop to do the driver change.
Indeed so. So, Japan, Turkey, Russia, Portugal, Germany, America. Most of that, I think, was determined by who was on what tyres and when. Because if you take, for example, Germany and America, they've been languishing down the order for a bulk of the session, but Gurik and Feriol up near the pointy end at the very end, the right tyres at the right time. So, Japan tops qualifying 1, the race 1 grid for the FIA Motorsport Games GT Cup from Turkey, Russia, Portugal, and then the USA. Denmark 7th, ahead of Italy, Poland, Australia. Thailand 11th from Spain, Malaysia, China, and Hong Kong 15th. 16th to Chinese Taipei, ahead of Switzerland. Team Great Britain only 18th, ahead of France, then Belarus, 21st Belgium, and 22nd Kuwait in the Aston Martin Khalid Al Mudhaf, rounding out the time. So a real mix, a real spread, and a fascinating session again, as I say, partly dependent on when you went to the right tyre choice. Having a look there at some of the highlights. Teams now do the driver change, get ready for Q2. You see how the road was greasy early on, how everyone was fighting for traction, but then it did start to dry, and it was able to put the emphasis on slick tyres. Damage for Q8. And there you see Russia, Renat Salikov, who was really rapid in the early stages, was good at the end as well. Hamaguchi was one of the first for Japan to go on to slick rubber, and it seemed to be a good call. Others followed suit, and the times did drop, even though on his out lap, Hamaguchi was caught out. Slick's not up to temperature, big lose, but look, it's smoke that comes off the tyres as he spins, not spray as the car rotates. Hiroshi Hamaguchi then for Japan, 1 minute 38.4. Japan fastest in Q1 for the GT Cup at the Motorsport Games. Green flag waved to get qualifying 2 underway for the GT Cup here at the FIA Motorsport Games. The cars heading down the pit lane, and this is, of course, a separate qualifying session. They are standalone sessions, one for one race, one for the other. You have 2 qualifying races before the main race. So, fresh driver into the car, presumably now a fresh set of slicks, because those at the end of Q1 that were going onto slick tyres really did have an advantage. And as an example, Japan on its last 2 laps did a 1:40 and then a 1:38, illustrating how much quicker the road was becoming.
Indeed. Car on the left of screen, that is the 87 entry, Jimmy Pla, behind the wheel, and that would be a car. We know how quick Jimmy Pla is. We know his co-driver, Jean-Luc Bubalik, was reprimanded for some unsafe return to the track, but Jimmy Pla will undoubtedly put that car up, in my view, to where we normally see it when he's behind the wheel, and that's pretty much in the front of any session he's driving in.
And now, in the majority of cases, you have the quicker driver, the silver driver. Can't say pro, but the more experienced. Some are professional racing drivers, of course, even if they are not graded as a gold or a platinum. But there is a quick silver. That is Jim Pla, who we saw win his class at Paul Ricard in the 1,000-kilometre 6-hour race earlier on in the year, the Pro-Am category. And with Jean-Luc Bubalik, France should be a competitive nation this weekend.
So everybody tentatively feeling their way around the racetrack. This opening lap, not opening laps. Everybody will just wonder what track conditions are like. They'll have heard from their co-driver, yes, it's getting better. But having said that, you go offline, you might find the track is somewhat damper than the actual racing land that is evolving. You can see the track, the shade of grey going from dark to lighter. The lighter the colour indicates the drier of the circuit. So Jimmy Pla comes across, first flying lap. What can he do?
Well, the time that's the benchmark is a 1:38.4. They should be able to obliterate that. The road is getting drier, the road is getting faster, and these are, in theory, the quicker drivers. So there is Pla for France, Belgium behind Nico Verdonk at the wheel of the Audi.
Jimmy Pla in the first of the 2 sessions, yes, he did a 1:32.6. In the second of the 2 sessions, a 1:32.5. So that's what we need to be looking. The time we need to be looking is somewhere in that 1:32, maybe a 33 for your first flying lap. Bearing in mind, as the track gets drier and everybody will be on, I'm assuming, I don't know, we haven't got confirmation, a new set of Pirelli tyres. So we'll wait and see what Jimmy Pla, he's certainly fastest overall Sector 1. No major surprise here, but there are others around. Patrick Niederhauser in the Lamborghini was quickest overall in that second session, albeit by 0.2 of a second from this car and from this driver.
Well, Jim Pla is absolutely charging, isn't he? He has done 2 absolute bests. This is going to be the target time, isn't it? And Jim, we know, is fast. He has been a mainstay of GT racing, both GT3 and GT4, came out of single-seaters in French Formula 4, but Carrera Cup France he has done, and accelerates, rumbles really, in the case of the Mercedes AMG, up towards the final corner, which is Roma, turn 14, the car run by ACA ASP, Jérôme Policon's squad. Jean-Luc Bubalik is the ACA part of the team, and Jim Pla's lap time is a 1:38.057. That's the best of the day for a GT car. So first flying lap in Q2 annihilates anything in Q1, as expected.
Not unexpected at all. I mean, Jimmy Pla we thought would be quick. He was the first car to complete a flying lap. So he's gone quicker than anybody has done in a GT3 car so far. And one would assume Nico Verdonk will also be somebody who will be, well, let's say pushing is the understatement. Probably one of the bigger challenges to Jimmy Pla in that attempt to racing Audi.
Right, what about Nico Verdonk? Second fastest, 1:39.513. The Attempto Racing run car. Akin Arca's squad operating this for Nico. Hugely experienced driver. He seems to have been around forever. And Nico Verdonk for Belgium got as far as Formula 3000 in his career. Formula Le Mans champion in 2009. And pretty much any GT category going, it feels like he has raced in. Now he's third at the moment because Weiran Tan, representing Malaysia, has just got up to second in the Earl Bamber Porsche.
Very good. In the meantime, for those Jimmy Pla fans, he's gone fastest Sector 1, fastest Sector 2 on his second flying lap, as we still ride with Nico Verdonk in the Attempto Racing Audi through turns 12, 13. You can run the curb on the outside. We've seen pretty much everybody on a quick lap running, taking the advantage of running the curb. So Jimmy Pla still waiting to complete his lap as Nico Verdonk. What can he do? Currently in third place, 139.5. He goes to fourth place. That's it.
Right, so Verdonk second, 137.998. Jim Pla's best is a 36.1. That's Spain in the pit lane. Fernando Navarrete, experienced saloon GT racer, is in. That car run by Racing Team Spain.
Spencer Plumley in the America Ferrari second quickest, 1.7 seconds away from the lead Mercedes. As we look at the car that dominated this event last year in Bahrain with Chris Buncombe and Chris Fruitt behind the wheel.
Chris Froggatt is the man at the wheel now, and he's been racing, of course, in the endurance Blancpain races this year. He's also done a bit of International GT Open. He was back in the Ferrari Challenge World Finals, but even though he's been a regular Ferrari Challenge racer for quite a number of seasons, he's never actually raced here in that championship. So I was kind of expecting when I spoke to him yesterday, he would tell me all about Vallelonga, but it's new to him. The Ferrari pressing on, Porsche goes top, Malaysia goes top now.
By just under half a second, so good lap. Indeed, Earl Bamber, I don't think he's here, but we are on tan behind the wheel and getting close to the times that we saw on Friday during those two sessions. 1 minute 32. Just checking the notes. So Chris Froggatt getting out of the way. So Porsche, Mercedes, Ferrari, Audi. 21 is the Ferrari, and 51, looking down the list, is also Ferrari.
So it means currently it is Malaysia, France, America, Belgium, Italy, Belarus. So Alexander Tulkinitz, a junior, 6th fastest from Eric Zhang, who is 7th fastest. Here is Spencer Pampelli up towards the timing line for the USA and goes 3rd fastest then. So Spencer Pampelli, 1 minute 36.456, going strongly in the American Ferrari. Second in the GT4 America Sprint Championship this year in a Porsche Cayman.
Very good.
We're into the 35s, incidentally. Now, the best time we had in the dry in free practice yesterday was a 32.3. A 35.6 is where we are at the moment, so the times are tumbling. That's Giorgio Roda for Italy, way around the outside of the Porsche of Alfred Renauer for Germany. But right now, Roda Jr., Giorgio Roda, is really hustling on, class champion in the European Le Mans Series with his dad last year. Jim Pla for France, absolute best, sector 1, sector 2. Here is Giorgio Roda, Italy, up towards the line. What can she do then? Italy as a nation is 5th at the moment, courtesy of Giorgio Roda's earlier lap. He'll break the beam now, and that time is good enough for second.
But what Jimmy Pla, he's been demoted down to 3rd, but he's coming up to compete. He's in the 3rd sector, runs right out to the exit. Be careful of circuit track limits. You may get penalised, but purple indicates that 1 minute 35.6 of the 16 entry of Tan. Wian Tan is going to be demolished as he comes across. Jimmy Pla goes quickest once again on a 1:34.315, 1.3 seconds quicker than Nico Verdonk has now managed to get his Audi up into 2nd place, 0.9 of a second. So it's all happening here at Vallelonga.
And you might get Italy top by the end of the session with 11 minutes to go, because Giorgio Roda has done for Italy an absolute best in sector 1. Russia over the line 9th, Denis Bulatov, but Italy is the one to watch right now because Giorgio Roda is absolutely flying. Came out of Formula Abarth, International GT Open champion. He's raced in Blancpain Endurance, as I say, ELMS champion in his class. It is at the moment France, Belgium, America, 1, 2, 3. But here is Italy. Now, what about Giorgio Roda's lap? It's 2 personal bests. He's got traffic ahead of him and a couple of corners to go.
He got compromise coming into turn 11, and so that will have a bearing on his time. But in the meantime, at the front, Jimmy Pla continuing to pour the torture on everybody else. Purple sector 1, purple sector 2. Roda comes through. Currently they are in 6th place, waiting to see whether that will make any alter. It will stay 6th place. Nico Verdonk is in 2nd place, 9/10 of a second away from Jimmy Pla. Pla will complete this lap very shortly. He's on a 1:34.3, and wait to see what that lap will end up being. Verdonk is a 1:35.2.
quite a number of nations yet to do a time, even though we're into the second half of the session. Here is one of them, Spain, up to 17th now, but Turkey hasn't yet done a lap time, so Ayşen Güven, nor Poland, Artur Janos, there you've got two very quick drivers, nor Germany, Alfred Rennauer. It's his company, Herbert Motorsport, that runs that car for Germany. They have yet to do lap time, so it's going to be fascinating right at the end of the session. Belarus up to 4th, now make that 3rd, make that 4th again, because America has just gone quicker. So Talkenica Jr. is 5th. Russia up to 2nd, courtesy of Bulatov. Jim Pla tops the times, though. It's a 1:33.609. We are almost now at the point of yesterday's times.
Yes, we're within a second of that crossover. 1:32.6 was the time set on Friday in virtually dry track conditions. The track is now not a million miles away from where it would have been 24 hours ago, and everybody just adapting. The thing is, you've got to be mindful that if you do go offline and you want to get past a car, maybe a slower car, that in doing so there is potential traps. But racetrack conditions are coming now finally to these GT3 competitors.
Japan up to 2nd. Ukio Sasahara has gone 2nd fastest. Russia is on a demon lap, absolute best for Bulatov, so Russia is looking good. Japan is looking good. France tops the times. Still waiting for a lap out of Poland, amongst others, but Poland's going to be the key. Portugal up now to 2nd. Enrico Chavez goes 2nd, so Portugal 2nd fastest. That is America 6th. Spencer Pampelli, that's Russia. Denis Bulatov, well, he's down to 4th, but an absolute and a personal best now as he wriggles round the back of the paddock into turn 13. It's looking good for him through that S, but almost every car is changing the times. Jim Pla bailed on his last lap, having done an absolute best in the middle sector. Portugal 2nd, Turkey now 3rd. We've not yet seen Ayşen Güven in the session, but he's gone 3rd quickest for Turkey. Here is Russia. What can Bulatov do? Is this going to put him on the front row of the grid? Yes, it is. 1:34.247. Denis Bulatov up to 2nd quickest for Russia.
Breathless action all around Bellanunga.
Now the next one is going to be Japan. Look at this, Sasahara.
Deep to purple in the middle sector. So this is the win, not quite the winningest Lamborghini in the FFF Racing's stable. Car that was driven principally by Phil Keane and others during the course of the season. So it did win the Pro-Am category, but I think a variety of drivers shared that car. Not always. Phil Keane was, I think, the constant, if I'm not mistaken. I could be. So Christina Nielsen has gone into 6th place. Niederhauser has gone, and now it's the Lamborghini has gone quickest of all, 33.310.
So Ukio Sasahara for Japan goes top. Don't forget, Japan was quickest in Q1 anyway, partly courtesy of tyres, but Ukio Sasahara, former single-seater racer, then up to the top. Now this is still a man that could be the fastest. Ayşen Güven, who was the winner in Porsche Super Cup at Silverstone at the British Grand Prix support race this year, and Güven was winner with Salih Yolic of the FIA GT Nations Cup last year. It is TF Sport running the Aston rather than Ram Racing Mercedes this year. But what about Güven for the front row? Can Turkey go quickest? No.
Drops the place, actually.
Yeah. Surprising that, Güven not being able to improve. So, Ukio Sasahara, the Asian Formula 3 champion, is quickest. He's somebody with no real GT experience, but bolt him into a car, boom, there he is, top of the times.
Well, if you're quick, you're quick,
yep,
basically. But that 519 Lamborghini, an exceptionally well-sorted chassis, and in conditions like this, where you rely on the car maybe more than the talent behind the wheel. So that may be indicative of where that 2 or almost 3/10 of a second practice session or qualifying session being dominated by the number 87 Mercedes of Jimmy Pla, now being usurped by the 519 Lamborghini as Peter Niederhausen in the 58 Lamborghini in 3rd place, half a second behind 2nd place, 0.8 of a second behind the leading Lamborghini.
It's a very jumbled grid. Now there is Marchi Lee for Hong Kong in the Honda. Now Marchi Lee is not exactly an inexperienced driver. He has been racing, and some of the racing has been done in Europe for a long, long time. Started racing, in fact, in France, but has raced successfully in Asia, in Australia, as well as in Europe. We've seen him in endurance Blancpain races, in the Nürburgring 24 hours, in a variety of cars, Audis, Bentleys, you name it. Here he is in the Honda. Change for 8th now, because up to 8th fastest goes Thailand, it is Kantadi Kusiri, racing in Porsche Super Cup this year, who has gone up to 8th fastest. 12th is Italy. It's a long way back, actually.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. It's an improvement, but it's much further back. We saw very strong laps about, what, 5-6 minutes ago from the Italian entry, but it's now outside the top 10 in an improvement up into 12th position. Nothing much going on now other than the 519 Lamborghini, currently fastest overall, has again gone fastest in Sector 1. So this looks like a battle between essentially the Lamborghini, the Mercedes, the 58 Lamborghini, so a bit of a Lamborghini-Mercedes sandwich. Actually looking to come across the line, was in 20th position, goes up to 19th, a small improvement. Car I'm disappointed in not seeing running Zaid Ashkanani, who we know is quick, but that car's only just gone out. Changes in 3rd place, number 16. Bamba Motorsport up back into 3rd place.
Replay there of somebody getting it all wrong through the gravel. That was Einstein Guven, so maybe that explains why he's only 9th fastest. So Guven having an off in the Tom Ferrier TF Sport Ram Aston for Turkey. Now Japan, interesting last lap, absolute best, not a very good final sector, a 1:33.3, 2/10 down on his earlier best. That's still a time others would absolutely love to have.
Indeed, but we don't know whether it was traffic, maybe just a slight error, pushing too hard.
Porsche's doing well, Australia up to 5th, Germany up to 7th, both Porsche teams. So that is now Brenton Grove for Australia 5th, Alfred Renard for Germany up to 7th. 3 minutes to go, and Japan, another demon first sector, absolute best. That's Malaysia's Weron Tan, looking good.
Yeah, personal best first and second sector. One might say that one of the benefits Porsche has on this type of racetrack, with all the weight hanging over the rear, they gain a marginal benefit on traction out of these relatively low-speed corners. Only one quick section, which is the section now. Tan is coming down across start-finish line in, and that's into turns 1 and 2. The sweep then of 3. There we go. Doing about best part of 220-30 kilometers per hour going through.
France, fastest, 1:33.023, nearly at a proper dry pace. Jim Plartops.
But I was going to say Yamaguchi was about to, not Yamaguchi, the 519 Lamborghini about to once again demote Jimmy Plough because he's got purple sector 1, sector 2. So we need to see the conclusion of, and it has 1:32.8, 2/10 of a second away from the best time we saw on Friday in 2 sessions that were ostensibly dry all the way through.
So Sasahara back to the top of the times for Japan. You've just seen Portugal go 4th, courtesy of Enrico Chavez then. What about America, John?
Spencer Pompelli up into 7th place. I used to racing in America, great racetracks in America. Funny enough, Vallelunga is not unlike a lot of the circuits in North America. It's old school, it's a proper racetrack.
Sasahara just gets quicker and quicker. I know the car's getting lighter on fuel. I know the tyres are getting warmer and stickier. The road is getting drier. But Sasahara looking very good indeed. And him and Hamaguchi right now, you're going to say, will take a lot of stopping.
Got to put your money on them if you're a betting person, but this certainly is a strong run indeed from Team Japan, but Sasahara in particular. We know that Hamaguchi is an acknowledged GT3 competitor, but he's backed out of it now.
Now, the UK has just improved, but only to 19th. Chris Froggatt at the wheel of number 93, the car of Great Britain. So Team GB, Chris Froggatt 19th, but he knows the car. I'm surprised he's not doing better.
Interesting, a message on screen for Raton Racing SRL, Patrick Nieseharder behind the wheel. Will the team manager report to race director after the session? Don't know what for. There's been so much action in this 20-minute session. We've got 36 minutes. Wow, that gets about as close as you can get coming off turn 14. Hugo Chavez. Hugo was the president of, what do you call it?
That's right.
Freudian slip there.
Tell you what, he's done well on his driver rating, hasn't he? Yes. That's him. Enrico Chavez then for Portugal. Never mind, John. He's having the checkered flag is nearly out for all of us. Patrick Niederhauser third then for Switzerland. I tell you, Australia, Brenton Grove doing a really ripper job, 4th quickest.
Job, really good.
Poland, finally, Archer Janos has got on with the job and he's up into the top 10. I mean, Was expecting more, to be fair, from Janos, but he's into the top 10. The flag is out. So it is Japan, France, Switzerland, Australia, Malaysia, Portugal, Russia, Germany, Taipei, Poland.
Identical times, first and second, but because Sasahara got that time recorded before Jimmy Pla, he gets the benefit of being then the quickest. So how close is that? Well, it is identical. Don't often get to see identical times, particularly for first and second positions.
It's outstanding, isn't it, that? So identical times at the end of the session. Now, can anybody else improve? Those that are yet to take the flag. This is Portugal, and Enrique Chavez is a little bit down in the sectors now.
Well, he's cruising back. He may well just go into the pit lane as he does. Pit lane entry just before turn 14 makes it a much better entry, and it precludes anybody trying to go into the former pit lane entry, which was much round the exit of turn 14.
So the flag is out. Australia still to take it. Brenton Grover's had a really good run in this session, the quicker of the two. He's not short on experience and faster than his dad. He goes over the timing line. Australia then ends the session fourth. What about Spain? Here to take the flag is Fernando Navarrete. The only other one of note would have been Poland. Artur Janos takes the flag now. Navarrete then for Spain 21st, but again, an absolutely fascinating session.
Well, I think GT3 has just once again proven what a competitive race series it is. You know, quick cars, best lap 132.898, and that is what, a tenth and a bit off the best that we saw on Friday afternoon in track conditions that were ever improving all the way through both of these 20-minute sessions for the GT3 qualifying.
So, at the end of the session then, it is Japan and France tied on times, but the one that does it earlier gets the higher grid position. So Ukio Sasahara for Japan will start at the front with France alongside on the grid. Switzerland and Australia for row 2 ahead of Russia and Malaysia. Portugal and Germany row 4 from Chinese Taipei, and then Poland. 11th quickest, the USA, from Thailand, Belarus, Belgium a long way back, Denmark, Christina Nielsen's time only netting 15th. Really disappointing though, Turkey, much more expected from Ayhan Şengüven. And then you have Great Britain also disappointing, just 17th from Kuwait. Italy a long way back, Hong Kong, Spain and China to round out the times at the end of Q2. Look at the highlights with Nico Verdonk looking quick early on, with Ayhan Şengüven taking over the Turkish entry, but it just did not gel for that car. Aston Martin rumbling out on track, but Ukio Sasahara, new to GT3, new to the FFF racing team, putting a huge amount of effort into it, went quickest. Ayhan Şengüven off the road and back on again in the Team Turkey Aston, and with a bit of smoke coming out of the left rear corner, he headed for the pit lane. Portugal got on with the job, Enrique Chavez chipping his way up the order, but it was Ukio Sasahara who was the man to beat at the end of Q2. 2 poles for Japan in the GT Cup.
Is the microphone still on from when we tested it?
Here at Vallelunga for the FIA Motorsport Games, the cars pouring out onto the circuit for the second qualifying session for the Touring Car Cup. Everybody running to TCR regulations, and this is the second qualifying session that we've had this morning for these cars. The road is drier, and this will determine the grid for the second race. The two races, different lengths, only by 5 minutes, different points waiting also, 5 extra points for the win for race 2. So 25 minutes plus a lap, 25 points for the winner, 30 minutes plus a lap, 30 points for the winner. And earlier on, we saw the pole position time be set by Germany, by Luca Engschler. Only at the end of the session did we actually know that the car had pulled off the road and then limped to the pit lane. Blown engine change needed, and if you have an engine change, you start at the back of the grid for your next race, and equally, it's unlikely they're going to get the job done in time to have him out for Q2.
Be a big task. Now, you say you drop to the back of the grid. Would you drop to the back of the grid for the qualifying for race 1, or would it be for qualifying for race 2?
The regulations are for the next race you compete in, so it would be race 1. Yeah. But if you can't get out for Q2, you're going to be in the back as well for that.
I mean, what we're hoping we're going to see is something a little bit more of the real form that these touring cars have got. There was tricky conditions when they were out this morning on wet weather tyres, now all on slicks. More like it at last.
That was Rory Butcher having a bit of a lock-up and almost skating into the back of the traffic because he was pressing on, and others were being a little bit more gentle on this outlap. Lots of weaving going on to get the warmth into the Yokohama rubber. Number 6 is the car of Great Britain, Rory Butcher.
A lot of rubber build-up on the outside of turn 13. That's again an area where you want to steer clear of if you're slightly offline in the exit. People diving into the pits, whether they're going in for, I don't know why they'll be going in. I would have thought they'd have completed a flying lap and get some sense of feel. We've got a 30-minute session with now just 27 3/4 minutes of that session remaining.
Now that's Jean-Philippe for France, who for the first race was 7th in qualifying, but he's going to be 5th on the grid because engine change for Jim Carto after free practice. Now an engine change for Luca Engschler bumps him up a full row.
Will help, no doubt. So what's he going to do in Q2? I mean, these cars are now looking like race cars. When they were running around this morning on wet weather tyres, there was really pushy-footing it around. Now they can lean on the car. Felipe fastest for Sector 1. So he's effectively the first car to come across, or will come across start-finish line on a flying lap, just letting that right rear dangle, as is the form with any front-wheel drive racing car. I mean, I know I repeat myself, but God never designed racing cars to be front-wheel drive, but there we are. That's what we live in, a world of front-wheel drive, packaging, and all the other cost factors as well.
Alternative touring car regulations are available. It's a rear-wheel drive car, for example, that won the British Touring Car Championship that you may have seen on television this year.
See the way the right rear just hangs in the air, on the brakes are just not moving.
Now, Jean-Philippe is going to set the target time in all of this, is he not?
Indeed he is. Mind you, the German entry, 16.
Belgium,
beg pardon, yes, Magnus is fast as Sector 1, fast as Sector 2. And that's the Audi.
That's right, the Audi S3. So TCR regulations, everybody runs to. Big slide for Filippi coming into Roma, turn 14, but he corrects the slide. This is a car new to him, effectively, because he's been racing a Renault in TCR Europe. He gets into the SEAT for this weekend. He sets the target time of 1:44.028. We had a 1:56 as the best in Q1, so shows you how much drier the road is.
Oh, yes, the track conditions are completely different, but that's 3.5 seconds off the best time that was set in a dry running yesterday, so still a lot of time. First flying lap, it's a sort of suck it and see what the track conditions are like. So one would assume that, as we've just witnessed in GT3, the times will begin to drop pretty rapidly once drivers get a sense of the feel and the grip and the bite the track is going to give up to them.
So Belgium now quickest as you look at Enrico Bettora for Italy in that very busy livery that he's got on his Audi S3. Matteo Homola behind him. There for Russia is Klim Gavrilov, France, John Philippi behind, and Belgium then, Gilles Magnus is the fastest and going quicker again in the first sector of this lap. Where is Italy? 6th is the answer at the moment. So Enrico Bettora for pit lane competition running that car. The Audi S3 brakes hard, scrabbles out a little bit deep there, down through turn 10.
Still waiting to see the Housewife's Choice's favourite, Tom Coronel. He was just gone out on an out lap. In fact, he's gone out and come back in. So anyway, Tom Coronel, the 33, that's the Dutch entry. Honda Civic FK7. What does FK7 stand for?
It is the type number, it's the saloon, isn't it, rather than the hatch that you might have seen in the BTCC, which is the FK8, and the older Civic Type R that you've seen in the British Touring Car Championship is the FK2. So it's a bit like a 993, 996 Porsche type way of... It's a type number associated, rather than calling it a Honda Civic Mark 4, Mark 5, Mark 6, it relates to that. Yeah.
Bit of debris in the track that's been there for a lap, so I don't know whether that's now a massive chunk of rubber or a bit of bodywork.
Look at that glorious car. The Alfa Romeo goes through. Norbert Kish, double FIA European Truck Racing Champion.
In the meantime, pole or provisional pole has dropped even further down to a 141.7, and that is now 1.1 seconds away from the best we saw Friday afternoon.
We're on board with Tom Coronel, and he has yet to do a flying lap time, but this is going to be the first one that he does. Heading now up through the gears. Stands on the brakes, down through turn 10. Stabs at the throttle, unwinds the lock, grabs a gear, stands on the brakes again, turn 11. This is the real paperclip section, isn't it? All these corners loop together.
I mean, it's a very demanding part of the circuit here, particularly. I don't know why. I've always found turn 12. And there we go.
There's the proof.
There's the proof. I don't know why, but you know, going back decades, always 12 was I felt the trickiest corner. It's a simple, straightforward corner, but it just seems to catch people. I don't know why.
And there, with decades of experience, Tom Coronel almost drops it, comes up to the timing line, first flying lap of Q2. Where does it put him? Puts him second fastest. Even with that slide, he did an absolute best in the last sector.
Probably wouldn't have beaten the time of Magnus in the 16 in the Audi, but nevertheless, a good benchmark time to put down.
So it is Belgium now from Russia, because Klim Gavrilov has just gone second. Up to 4th is Great Britain. Rory Butcher goes 4th fastest. That's China, the other MG in the entry for Zhenyong Zhang. And he comes into Roma through turn 14, heading up towards the timing line. He's currently 10th fastest. China, Zhenyong Zhang.
So changes going on, second and third. So currently in second place is Gary Love in the Audi. Third, Gonzalo de Andres in the Peugeot. That's the Spanish entry in third place.
It's going well, actually, because that car flattered to deceive, really,
rain
in Q1.
on the windscreen, folks.
Oh, you're right. So that's going to unravel everything.
Well, it means that if you don't get this lap done before the rain falls heavily, you're going to lose out.
There are 5 drivers without a time, and now if they're going to have to do that on a damp circuit, there's one of them going through, Jessica Backman for Sweden. You're riding on board with her now, but she's up against it, trying to do a gun lap in the wet. Gavrilov, absolute best, sector 1, down in sector 2. This is Jessica Backman, the timing screen confirming what we're seeing. Drops of rain reported at the straights. The race director now tells the teams.
At the minute, the rain that's falling is not significant. Nevertheless, in another 2 or 3 minutes, it will begin to make its presence felt.
It's true
so
enough.
You've got to come. This is the best chance completing this lap for Backman in the Hyundai, and coming through turn 9, down into turn 10, and just be careful because track conditions will have changed. Oh, there we are.
That's Spain going off the road. That proves it.
Just goes to show you once that rain starts, you've got to look around you. You've got to be aware that the track conditions have changed.
Now, if you've got nice warm tyres, they'll work for a lap or so, won't they? But after that, if the rain really falls, you're in trouble. Norbert Kish has gone 9th just before conditions worsen. Red flag. We've got a stoppage. Why did we have a stoppage? We saw Spain go off the road. Now, did that car get stuck in the gravel? I don't think it did. but the race director has stopped the session. There is Spain. It's limping, but that's the cause of the stoppage. The car trickling along the road, but that, you could argue, is a red flag. Well, yeah, it's still in harm's way, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the fourth quickest overall. So actually, if it does continue to rain, he's going to be in the second row of the grid. He's not going to be unhappy about it, albeit that he may have, because of an error, stopped the session red flag. So blowing fans into the front. Keep that cool. I wonder what for this. Try and keep the brake cool. There can't be very much else that they would be looking to do. And that is the Seat Cupra, John Felipe. Currently, John Felipe is all the way down in 14th place. Surprising.
So, Zvidris for Lithuania, Bachmann for Sweden, and the Czech Republic's Dorschen Kuril yet to do a time. And the best lap time of Spain deleted for causing a red flag under the regulations. So the best lap time for the Spanish driver Gonzalo de Andres is deleted because he is the cause of this red flag.
So John Felipe in fourth row of the grid, one of a number of drivers, Tom Coronel mentioned them, that he thought would be his principal competitors. Tom Coronel got up to second place, then it's just been dropped one by Garolov in the number 14 Russia entry, the Audi RS3 LMS.
And no sign, just again to make the point, of Germany. Luca Engschler with this engine change still going on, not yet out onto the circuit. Now, whether this red flag helps them because it gives them more time to work and maybe sneak out at the very end is debatable.
I mean, to do an engine change in a front-wheel drive car, okay, you just basically drop the subframe and all fall out, but it's all the ancillaries you've got to detach to. Then maybe I assume that all these engines are what I would describe as dressed with an exhaust system, the clutch all attached to it, or whether they have to do that before they can put the engine in. I assume they weren't anticipating an engine change. In touring car racing, as in GT3 racing in particular, engine changes are, oh, there we see. So the car, the Spanish Peugeot, is about to be craned. So that might be more than just an off, maybe a purpose as to why that car. There is the front of the Hyundai, and there you can see the engine is undressed because there's no exhaust attached to it. So that ain't going to get out.
No, that's the race against time for race one, isn't it, rather than anything else. And the first touring car race is actually not that far away, 1:15. It's only 2 hours away.
Well, that's doable in this case, but they've given up in hopes of getting out in this qualifying session. So disappointment indeed. And it's interesting, you know, I call an engine a dressed engine. It comes complete, just pulled straight in. But in this case, there is no exhaust system on it, and I'm assuming there is a clutch somewhere on it, but I can't really get to see. So the engine is being, I don't know, sort of, why would they want to put a wooden block under a, well, the case itself probably wouldn't be substantial enough. So the engine probably would weigh something in the region of about 110 or so kilograms.
It's run by the Engschler team. Luca himself involved in the work that's going on.
I wonder what the workshop manual says to do an engine change on a Hyundai is. I mean, if you're paying for it, would this be a quick, cheap job, or would this be a bit more specialized? Radiators out as well, so it's a big job. And still waiting to get this Peugeot craned away, is it now? They got it running. And is it then going to make its one way back there, looking into the cockpit, or into the engine bay, I beg your pardon, of the number 6. And that is Rory Butcher's MG. It's strange, you know, imagining MG, a great British brand, but now owned by Chinese owners.
So there, the teams in the pit lane, and Rory Butcher for Great Britain in the MG. First real experience he's had of TCR regulations rather than what was initially called NGTC for the British Touring Car Championship, in which he was a multiple race winner this year. He was the independent champion and took the independence title in the last weekend at Brands Hatch, which was a dramatic weekend all round.
Certainly was. Some questionable driving standards I did observe.
Did you?
I did.
I must have missed those.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I did listen to the commentary.
Really?
And
that's very noble of you.
You know, maybe I would have been more forthright, but then I'm not part of the team in that broadcast lineup.
Well, welcome back to touring cars, John.
Yes, indeed.
I think been part of the BTCC's coverage in the Super
many
Touring
years ago,
era.
yeah.
There's
Back in the heady days.
the Super Touring manufacturer Spenfest. There's Zhendong Zhang for China, who is 13th currently. Taking a long time to recover this car, isn't it? We've still got 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, I don't understand why, because the car seemingly was sitting on the racetrack and the recovery vehicle was seemingly sitting just ahead of it. There it is now. So it is being towed back, I think, rather than craned back. Got a nice shot of the graphics down the side of the Spanish entry. So where is the tow vehicle? Is it just taking it back a little more? That is a walking pace.
Yeah. It's odd that it's all so slow.
Well, I mean, he looks like is he going to need a recovery vehicle himself? Now, he's not going to pull it onto the inside of the corner, which will do it no power. There's a substantial bit of tarmac there, which looks like a curve.
Well, maybe that's why it's going slowly, so it's not a sudden jolt, it's a gentle ease up the slope. Anyway, the
front splitter is sufficiently close to the ground that it's not going to do it very much good.
Session is due to restart any second, but TBC. And we're not going to restart on 11:16.
Does your 147 look like this one, David?
Well, that's a Giulietta.
Well, that's a Giulietta.
Yes. 147's a bit, not old hat, but a little outdated. We did have a 147 for a time. Mrs. Addison had a 147, but that was superseded by something else. It was a humble twin spark. It was a lovely engine, lovely 2-litre engine.
Fond memories of my days with Alfa Romeo back in the 70s. That's when they were Alfa Romeos, in my opinion.
Spawning for a fight, you know, this bloke here. There's the Swedish car, Jessica Backman, yet to do a time, one of the three, yet to do a time. We are just 15 seconds away from getting the session back live here at Vallelunga. This is Q2, the grid for Race 2 for the Touring Car Cup in the first ever FIA Motorsport Games. This fabulous event that has brought nations, teams, drivers, supporters from all around the globe. Real mix in terms of the nations that you see in the circuit racing, the drifting, the digital, the karting slalom going on. We'll have a look at that on the stream during the day as well. Green flag, we're back in business.
No prisoners taken there with that release, as the Hyundai elbowed its way in. So the line of cars making their way out, so just 20 minutes and a few seconds remaining. And we did have that momentary little sort of light shower, which appears to have passed by, but it looks as if behind the circuit is just building and building. So once again, on your out lap, don't dither around. Get on with the job.
Oh, and almost getting in the way of Belgium. Look, there's the current pole man, Gilles Magnus, on his toes, getting past Mason Filippi, the American driver, as he slides through the traffic. Gilles Magnus looking really good in Q2 here.
Absolutely, and he's doing the right thing. He's getting on it at the earliest opportunity. He wants to get through the line of traffic that's directly ahead of him. Of course, he's going to have to be patient. There's a plethora of cars. Then he's leading the second gaggle all the way up the hill. Ooh, that was almost a contact with the Honda and the Hyundai as they came into turn 8.
Italy, Czech Republic, Holland go through. Then China, there is Belgium with America and what's that, New Zealand behind. Actually, that rain that was threatened hasn't really amounted to anything, has it? So we are still on a pretty much dry road as the teams then now have just 19 minutes. The teams, the nations, the drivers have 19 minutes still on the clock, and they're wriggling through turn 11.
Red spots on the lens down turn 11. Now, the entire field have gone out as almost as one. So it's going to be a bit messy for the majority of teams because they're going to be tripping over one another, looking for that clear bit of racetrack. As we watch the Russia Garolov come through onto start and finish straight. So he's got probably the best shot of anybody at this restart. Clear track ahead of him. Is that a flashing light down into turn 3? I wasn't a flashing yellow light. Maybe
this looked really quick, no question about
absolutely,
it.
that's what I'm saying. He's got on with the programme.
Oh, he has.
As has done Magnus in the
Similar round,
Friday,
yeah. So Gavrilov for Russia, unquestionably rushing around now to try and find 0.140 of a second, which will put him on a pole position. So it is Audi, Honda, MG at the moment. In other words, Belgium, Russia, Netherlands, Great Britain, and Gavrilov has done the absolute best in the first sector. It's game on now for pole position with just under 18 minutes on the clock.
I was just going to say, have track conditions actually changed, deteriorated, improved? The answer is probably fractionally towards maintain, maybe improved. So we'll see what Gavrilov does when he comes into the conclusion of sector 2. So he's up a tenth and a bit of a second, and that would more or less put him on equal terms with Magnus. Currently the provisional polls at a personal best. So who's got purple? Well, in sector 1, well, Blackman has got personal best.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, Sweden, having not achieved a time with 17 minutes to go, look like they're back in the races.
So Jessica Backman for Sweden, absolute best sector 1. This is Gavrilov, who should go top for Russia. He's only got to find 0.140 of a second. How is he doing as he comes into turn 14? It's looking pretty good for him. It's thumbs up from Watty, and he's going to break the beam. He needs to be better than a 41.7, and the answer is the lap time is a 41.024 by 0.685 of a second. Russia on pole.
And he made that time up in that final turn 14. He got the car precisely to the apex where he needed to be to get on the throttle to drive the car across the line. And that corner of all three, or that sector of all three sectors, is the reason why there's a slow car coming down, having left pit lane. There's a problem. Will that be another? Hopefully not a red flag there. Look at Backman and
the slow car is Rory Butcher, the MG. So Britain dropping to 11th. Jessica Backman is up to 4th. The whoops off the road goes New Zealand.
Rain falling a little bit down to the bottom of the circuit again.
Okay, so getting all caught up there was the All Black, the Kiwi, Fine Kahia, who is a parts assistant for Giltrap Audi, Colin Giltrap, who's been a mainstay of New Zealand motorsport. This is Jessica Backman, absolutely storming.
And a good friend. Colin Giltrap, a great friend to many drivers from New Zealand. Brendan Hartley amongst many, Earl Bamber amongst many. But Jessica Blackman is fastest overall in sector 1 and flying.
Right, now what can she do here then? The target time is a 41.024. Fourth quickest is Sweden, Jessica Backman. Very, very experienced in TCR technology. Coming now then up towards the completion of the lap. It's still desperately grey overhead, and she's lost time in sector 2.
Yeah, it is absolutely black as we drove towards the weather just behind the racetrack, so losing time in that second sector. Whether that was a function of maybe a small change in the level of grip on the circuit, we'll get an indication when she comes up to the conclusion. But to be fastest overall by just under 0.2 of a second in sector 1, that is impressive.
Here she comes, heading towards the timing line, 1 corner to go. So Jessica Backman, using all of the experience, the Swedish girl in the Hyundai, another of the girls on track this weekend, another of the initiatives the FIA supports in motorsport. The beam about to be broken. Where does this car slot in? Does it improve? Does it stay 4th? It stays 4th, but it's a better time of 1:41.996. So Jessica Backman does find hundreds.
Yeah, it was in the middle sector she lost out most. She had a personal best in the final sector, her fastest overall in the first sector. So that middle sector, for whatever reason, we didn't maybe get the full view of the entire sector, but back to Felipe in 5th place.
So there is John Felipe in this Seat that he switched to towards the end of the season. It's not a completely new car to him, but as I say, he started in a Renault, ended the year in the Seat, so maintaining this Seat link for this weekend. Up to 7th, Jim Carto, new engine after FP2. This is a genuine 7th. He will start this race where he qualifies.
All of a sudden, we've got no purples on screen.
No, you're right.
We're getting a few greens, so that, again, indicative of what's happening on the racetrack. The conditions on circuit, I think, have slightly deteriorated. Still good grip, but not quite what it would have been maybe 5 minutes ago.
Right, so here is Filippi, wriggling his way out of 13. That's Enrico Betra for Italy behind. Then you've got the Czech Republic and France for the pit lane. So it is now Russia top, ahead of Belgium, ahead of Slovakia. Mato Homola is 3rd, Sweden 4th, France 5th, Holland 6th, Then you have got Hong Kong 7th, 8th is Italy, 9th is the Czech Republic, 10th is New Zealand, 11th is Britain, 12th is Norway, 13th is Hungary. Then it's America, Lithuania, Latvia, China, Spain, and Kuwait.
And there is Lithuania.
That's the Golf GTI of Julius Adamovicius. So
Currently 15th, stays 15th.
yeah,
So it's, I think, what we're seeing or going to see with the remaining 12 minutes or so remaining, there's a small deterioration you can see coming down into turn 4. The track looks that darker look of indicating a bit of dampness.
former junior tennis ace, Julius Adamovicius, and he accelerates his way then now towards turn 5.
Is he a big server?
We'll find out. He's not yet committed a fault, I don't think, in this. He's only 15th fastest. We'll let that go. He's nearly committed a fault there, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. Been squirreling around under brakes.
Yeah.
So,
Second serve, Mr. Adamovicius. 15th fastest currently, the Golf TCR. See the nose sag as he hits the brakes at turn 8 here.
it's looking slightly on the twitchy side twice, 2 consecutive corners. So, whether there's a setup issue with the Golf or whether that is a reflection on where we are, 12 minutes to go in this session.
He's down in sector 2, isn't he?
So it'll be headlights on soon if it gets any darker.
Now, the last lap of Belgium was a personal best, so the front row split by 21 thousandths of a second. If you missed the last GT qualifying session here from the FIA Motorsport Games, we had them tied to the 1,000th on times in Q2 for the GT Cup at the end of Q2, while we're 21 thousandths with the TC touring cars, TCR spec cars for Russia and Belgium at the moment.
Well, what I enjoy about qualifying sessions is it's for real. They come alive, and we've seen that in GT3 qualifying, we're seeing it now in touring car qualifying. And 11 minutes remaining. Tom Coronel on a personal best, currently 6th quickest in the Dutch entry. So he's got a, wow, who was that shot off at turn 4?
We'll try and find them in a moment, if they get back on.
Well, in the ploughed fields down at the exit of turn 4.
Right, 3 were in the shot, 2 survived it. Cars in the background, but which one it was that went off, can't yet gauge. You'll have to look at sector times as there. Fahia dives up the inside line. The New Zealand all-black Audi looking good.
3rd in the World Rugby Cup.
Faint Kahia through.
Coronel, personal best, sector 2. Currently not on camera, this is the New Zealand entry. Coronel are the only one who looks to be in a position to make an improvement to get into his top 6, but he wants to get slightly further up.
Big lock up there by New Zealand. So Faint Kahia goes through. Good livery on that car. No doubt about the nation, is it? We have got 10 minutes still to go. This, remember, is determining the grid for race 2.
Tom Coronel has improved onto the 2nd row of the grid, 3rd quickest, half a second behind overall provisional pole sitter.
So there is New Zealand, which has had a spectacular lap. 10th, Faint Kahia is at the moment, and he should actually go faster because he's done 2 personal bests. Can this get New Zealand up a row on the grid? Breaks the beam, and it's a 1:41.615, 4th quickest. Fantastic effort, that. Really, really good.
Number of cars, as a consequence of this time, dropped down. Getting a backman in the Hyundai for Sweden down into 6th place. Felipe for France in 7th, and on it goes. There's the MG.
That's Rory Butcher, who is 11th fastest, still adapting to a new car, adapting to a new type of touring car regulation.
Do you think he'll be disappointed?
Yes. Because although he was saying to me yesterday, you know, don't expect great things, first time in the car, got a bit of a misfire, still learning. He's a very competitive driver, is Rory, and he will be determined to show just how good he is. He'd love to be higher up the order, yes.
Well, so is Karolov, who has gone purple. We haven't had a purple on our timing and scoring for a few minutes. Purple sector 1, purple sector 2. He looks like he's about to obliterate the best lap to date, 1:41.024, as against the 1:40.6, which was the best we saw Friday morning.
So Rory Butcher in the MG, has raced MGs within the BTCC, but here in the TCR spec car, heads up towards the timing line. This should be an improvement. 11th he was, 9th he is. Yeah, that's good, that's helpful, that moves him up.
So where is Gariloff? That is going to be a time. Will he be the first driver to break into the 1-minute 40s here this morning at Vallelunga? Still completing his lap, and there...
That's not Gavrilov, that is Sweden. Yes, Jessica Backman off the road, down at turn 4.
1:40.730, Gariloff for Russia, quickest overall now by 0.3 of a second.
So Jessica Backman, 6th in the times now, regroups after an off, and this is how the off happened.
Yeah, just hadn't the confidence to turn the steering wheel. Why she couldn't have slowed down a bit more before she got into what would loosely be called sand trap rather than gravel trap.
Well, the Swedish car carries on. Now Gavrilov is on it again, John, because he's done another absolute best in Sector 1.
Absolutely. Well, 31.3 in Sector 1. That is the fastest we've seen all in this session. Nobody really, well, the nearest challenger is Magnus, who in that sector on a personal best is just about a tenth and a bit down. So there is the car that is currently provisional pole, the car that is looking as if it may further stretch that advantage. In the middle sector, nothing overly startling, still strong time, but might be enough to alarm as Magnus, who's second, goes fastest in Sector 2.
Gavrilov for Russia, first year of car racing. He's only 19 years of age, third in TCR Russia this year, and he's way, way wide coming there out of turn 13. That will spoil the run a little bit. Now, it was an absolute best in 1, down in 2. He's going to be down in Sector 3. That shows the commitment.
Well, certainly he was rushing as much as he could to get off turn 13.
Over the line he goes. The lap time is a 41.185. Right, all eyes on Belgium. Gilles Magnus, personal best, absolute best. He's on his way to the timing line. There he is. Is this going to be good enough for pole position? It's not. It's a 1-minute 40.954. He's 2.224 of a second down on pole.
And he's got a part of the bonnet that sort of was a flapping head. And there's no question he's on a mission. Now, I don't know why. It's the air, where the air exits from the radiator, that should not be flapping, but regardless of that. So fastest middle sector for Gilles Magnus in his Audi up the hill. He's got a personal best Sector 1, and we wait to see what he will achieve in this final sector.
So Gilles Magnus' last lap was that improvement, 1-minute 40.954. He's down in the first sector of the lap. So Gilles Magnus, with a bit of traffic in the way, compromised. The RACB, Royal Automobile Club of Belgium, Academy winner, so that gave him this prize drive in TCR Benelux for 2019, and he also drove within TCR Europe 7th in that this last season.
John Philippe for France, currently in 7th place, personal best, Sector 1, personal best, Sector 2, so that is also a time that could be a top 6 by the time we get to the end of this 5 minutes and 18 seconds of this session remaining in this qualifying session.
I'll tell you somebody that's got on with the job quite nicely in this. 20th in Q1, 13th in Q2, Q8, Salam Al-Nusif. I know it's an easier track condition, you could argue, but that's a good amount of places on the grid to be found between the two sessions, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's look, this is tough racing. It's ultra competitive wherever you look. And you go out, particularly in these changeable track conditions, you go out, you set a time, you think, wow, I've cracked it now. And by the time you get back into the pits to tell the team you're very happy with the car, all of a sudden the car handling has turned to the proverbial. And what can I do? What can I do? Where's the time gone? So it's changing that rapidly. Felipe gets up to 6th place, personal best in all 3 sectors. So he's inside the top 6, 3rd row of the grid. And the provisional front row sitters are back into the pit lane, just over 4 minutes remaining. They're not currently looking to be challenged, especially the best would be 70, and that's Slovakia, Maciej Homala in his Hyundai, just over half a second away from the provisional pole.
So 4 minutes to go. There is Tom Coronel, who is still 4th, still trying hard, still pressing on. It's interesting, isn't it? Here you've got perhaps the most experienced driver on the grid, but he's being shown the way by the young guns.
Again, I like the way Tom Coronel exits out of turn 14. He gets the car really hooked up on the exit. doesn't make any difference to his time. Let's get a view there. Oh, how close could you get trying to take the line as a slower car was really trying to find a way to reverse back up the racetrack. A lot of experience behind the wheel for Tom Coronel. Into four, let it run up high and almost maintain the same amount of lock from the entry to the exit. Then the cut back onto this 1 kilometre extension to the Vallelunga circuit. Then a big break as you get down into turn 7. Seems to go on for a long way, that straight.
Fighting it, isn't it?
You hear the thing snatching and locking. Front-wheel drive with the differentials that they run on front-wheel drive race cars, easy to lock up the front brakes. So into 8, gets the nose in, then runs the curb, then 9 as you actually exit the cutting, which is probably the most charismatic part of this Vallelunga Raceway, but character has changed quite a considerable amount over the years. Neat and tidy for Tom Coronel, personal best in both sectors, but is it going to make any significant difference? He needs to find just under 3/10 of a second to get into provisional 3rd place, but keep him on the 2nd row of the grid nevertheless. Hips got on a jump over the curbs through 13. Watch this. Now watch what he does. This is where I think he really scores heavily. Gets the nose in, drives the car out of turn 14. Out onto the pit straight start finish line, comes up now and then improve. Yes, yes.
Well, he deserved that because he worked hard for it.
Well, we talked him through it.
Absolutely, it's all down to you, John.
Not quite, but we talked him through it.
The Boots and Gignon team can at least force a smile because that's put him up onto the inside of the 2nd row of the grid now. There's debris on the track at turn 10, we're being told, as you look there at Matto Homola, who has just lost a place on the grid. He's been elbowed back down to 4th, courtesy of talkative Tom Coronel. So an absolute best in that last sector. Can Coronel maintain that pace and squeeze another lap out of that set of Yokohamas? The flag is imminent. There's less than a lap time now left in the session, isn't there?
What do you know about Yokohama? We're familiar with Pirelli, we're familiar with Dunlop, but Yokohama, I'm not familiar.
I mean, they have been the tyre for the World Touring Car Championship, the WTCR of late as well. So a huge track record of supplying this type of touring car and at the World Championship level.
So a kind of spec tyre.
In a sense, yeah. It's one all the teams will be familiar with, just as the GT teams will be familiar with that Pirelli. Homola skips up the curve there, but going nicely, isn't he, here?
He didn't really want to do that,
but
he's got it back in control and throwing the Hyundai around. There's a lot of confidence behind the wheels of Homola. So let's see, having been demoted from 3rd to 4th, can he claw back? Doesn't look like he's going to do it on this lap. No green, certainly no purples.
Over the timing line.
Stage 4th.
Indeed, but Gilles Magnus has just done an absolute best within Sector 1, but he's then lost 2/10 in Sector 2. So big frustration. There he is, but this is another of those yo-yo laps. Up in one and down in t'other. So Gilles Magnus comes wide out of 13 up to the line now.
I mean, if he can claw back any of that, he's certainly pushing as hard as is capable, certainly what the Audi is capable of coping with. So comes out of turn 14 and 2/10 of a second away from. Oh, he's got it!
Right in the last knockings.
Orange, purple, wow!
1 minute 40.235. Belgium, quickest by nearly half a second. Gilles Magnus did a really good job there.
Outrageous, but again, it was that last sector, getting it right out of the hairpin, and then through turns 11 and 12, 13, where you can so easily lose time. Here, it's easy, this part of the racetrack is open and flowing, but it's that very tight and sinuous middle sector where it is so easy to throw away time. So on board with Tom Coronel now, what's he going to do? His personal best in sector 1, but plus 4/10 of a second. So Tom Coronel currently is 7/10 of a second away from now the provisional pole sitter Gilles Magnus. Needs some purple somewhere, Tom. Gets it in, runs the curve nicely, coming into the infield, but again 5/10 dropping another 10th in that middle sector.
And a big lock up there. I mean, again, you can tell that he's trying hard, but is he overdriving now?
I wouldn't say he's overdriving. I think that he's at the limit of what he's got with the car set up as it stands. What he does in this final sector, this is where he's been very strong, probably his strongest sector on this lap. But again, we'll just watch from the cockpit how he gets the front of the car in. There, And that's where you can get the drive on really early. Red light, is that a red light or not?
Well, the session's finished, so
okay.
yeah, lights will be on. So he doesn't improve. So Tom Coronel stays third. It's an interesting grid. That's for the second race. Remember, this is the longer race. This is the one with the slightly higher number of points and points for more places as well. Top 15, not top 10. So if you're going to score, doing well in the second race. Been a good morning, hasn't it? Lots of action across different categories.
It was a bit slow in starting, largely due to track conditions. The ambient was low, the track was wet. Very difficult for touring cars, even more difficult for the lesser experienced youngsters in Formula 4. Now the racetrack has come back to more or less the conditions that we saw for everybody who ran on Friday. And again, the confidence that comes back with that, knowing that now you can use the car, you can lean on the car.
So Belgium tops the times in the Touring Car Cup. Q2 for the race 2 grid ahead of Russia and then the Netherlands. Slovakia 4th ahead of New Zealand, then it's Sweden, France, Hong Kong, Italy and Great Britain rounding out the top 10 from the USA. 12th for Q8, big improvement from being 20th on the grid for the first race, or in the times in the first race. 13th the Czech Republic, then at Hungary and Norway, the two Alphas, 14th and 15th, the older spec car ahead of the new. 16th, China ahead of Lithuania, Latvia, Spain losing the best lap time set for causing a red flag, and Germany not venturing out, of course, as the engine change continued for Luca Engschler's Hyundai. So, lots of drama, pole position changing right the way through. Let's look at the best bits of Q2 for the Touring Car Cup that began with the Audi of Gilles Magnus on its toes. New set of Yokohamas going on to Klim Gavrilov's car. Gavrilov was one of the drivers trading the top time. Tom Coronel was hanging it all out as he did his level best to get onto pole position. In the end, it was third. This was the cause of the red flag because stationary was the Spanish Peugeot that Andres causing the red flag, losing his lap time but not being able to go back out again either. He actually only just set his best lap anyway. Gilles Magnus on his toes to get back out after the session restarted. Klim Gavrilov it was that was at the time on target for pole position, but Magnus did not give up. Jessica Bachmann hadn't done a time but then got to 4th, then had a couple of offs as well, skating off the road down at turn 11, grazing the wall, and also hustling on was Faye Kahia for New Zealand up on the inside of the traffic to go 5th. Jessica Bachmann had another off, this time down at turn 4 at Chimney 1, a double apex right-hander, but Gilles Magnus stormed along. So did Tom Coronel, who got 3rd, but Gilles Magnus fastest for Belgium for race 2 for the Touring Car Cup here at Vallelunga in this first FIA Motorsport Games.